Love Under Lockdown is a new chapter in personal diaries, told in an intimate docu-style that helps us examine the human condition, as well as the desire for love and connection, all while enduring a once-in-a-lifetime global pandemic. Subscribe to Love Under Lockdown for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You are listening to Any Given Sunday, a part of the Dead End Podcast Network. Please subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and all other podcasting services. Please make sure you check out Dead End Hip Hop, Dead End Sports, Dead End Gaming, Is the Mic Still On, Chris Platt's Strictly Hip Hop and Hoops Talk, and a host of other shows on our podcast network. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Yo, what up? Welcome back to Any Given Sunday. I am your host, Manny Brown, and I'm joined by our new co-host, friend of the show. It's a momentous occasion. First episode together as co-host. Obviously, we've done plenty of shows. We've collaborated with each other now, going back a year plus. Josh Rodriguez, what's going on, man? What's up?
No longer friend of the show. I'm now family of the show.
Yeah, family. No longer. You are indoctrinated into the show, man. What's going on? What's up, man? How's life treating you?
Life is good. I'm in New York. My lease ended yesterday. Just going to stay with my dad, save up some money. It is what it is. I'm lucky enough. I'm privileged enough to have a father who said, hey, come here for a couple months, save your money, go back out there. I'm like, all right, that's good.
Yeah. Gotta love parents that come through in the clutch, right?
Yeah, lucky, man.
Yeah, no doubt, man. But at least you're in our great home state of New York. How are things in NYC?
I literally got here today. Haven't been able to. I got right home. I do a football podcast for Uninterrupted, so I have to keep track of certain players and see how they perform. So that's what I've been doing. Just been locked in my studio all day. Yeah,
man. I feel you. Outside of that, man, how's life? How's everything going?
It's good, man. I mean, I got my job. Happy about that. You know, during the coronavirus, during the pandemic, when it first happened, I got laid off. I got part-time.
Yeah.
Now, I was an independent contractor with Uncorrupted, but now they hired me salary full-time with benefits. So definitely very lucky to be where I'm at right now, especially during this time. People losing their jobs. People are not really paying rent, deferring on rent. I'm lucky enough where I'm in a position where I can save money. I have money. I have a check coming every week, and I'm prepared for that. What about you, man? How's everything with you?
Man, everything is okay. I can't complain. Everything is okay. It's good days and bad days, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm okay. I'm all right. Yeah, life is good. Kids are good. Family's good. Everybody's staying healthy, safe, sane of mind. That's all you can, dealing with 2020 is about as much as everybody's dealing with 2020, right? So I think we're good. I think we're okay.
About to go down this week, man.
Oh man, so you want to get started with the election first, or do you want to start slow? You want to ease into our first show together. You want to start with the heavy stuff first, or you want to just recap some week 8 NFL football?
Let's do some football. Let's ease into it.
Let's ease into it. Yeah. Let's do some football, man. So, but before we get into anything, man, once again, thank you for accepting this. You didn't have to. Obviously, you're very successful on your own, and you didn't have to tag along with me on this podcast, but you did. So I appreciate you. Of course, we've talked about it offline, but yeah, still, I want to say that in front of everybody that's listening. Thank you. I appreciate you for accepting to be the co-host. And yeah, I think we're going to do an amazing job together. So I'm really, really looking forward to it, man.
Well, yeah, I'm equally as grateful for you asking me. I think this on my podcast to dime. I think we see the world the same. I think we think the same. I think, logically, our logic tree is the same. And, we might be a little different in some areas, but at the end of the day, I think you and I have a great conversation. And it makes for good audio. So, and video.
Yes. No, man, for real. And for the folks that have been asking about the hiatus, obviously this was the reason. Obviously, changing over some things on the show, obviously bringing Josh on board, changing the logo, all the boring things that podcasters like us have to worry about in this great world of podcasting that we're in. So that explains the hiatus, obviously. So glad to be back. 3 months is way too long. So I feel like there's 1,000 things we could talk about. Obviously, we don't have all the time in the world to talk about them, but still, glad to be back. And once again, man, I think we're gonna kill shit. So yeah, let's get into it, man. Anything that stood out to you this week as far as the NFL? We'll start with the NFL first before we get into our wonderful friend Kevin Cash. Jesus. Anything that stood out to you week 8 of this NFL season so far?
I mean, you got to go with the Steelers being undefeated. I wasn't one who necessarily believed in them to this ability, I guess. I mean, beating the Ravens in Baltimore, granted there's no crowd, I still think it's very impressive. You know, Lamar's not having the MVP season he had last year, but he's still Lamar. He's still kind of hard to contain, and that defense, I think, is for real. Ben is Ben. I mean, he has weapons all over the place. You know, probably one of the most underrated receiving corps in the league right now. Yeah. Probably won't be underrated for long. And, I think they're a real threat. I don't think people will take them too seriously. Maybe they are after this week, but to me, the big storyline is like the Steelers are for real. They're not just one of these mirage teams that are 6-0. They can actually win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree with that. I thought I was actually impressed with the Steelers when I first, that first game of the year, Monday Night Football, because I think like everybody, I didn't know what to expect from Big Ben coming back from such a major injury. Was he going to still be the same? Was he going to still have the same zip on his fastball, so to speak, that he had beforehand? And Ben hasn't been tremendous. I mean, he's had his weeks where he's been really good, and he's had other weeks where he's been, okay, but I don't think they need him to be that superstar quarterback he was in 2012. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think they need him to throw for 400 yards every game. Their defense is stout. They have a pretty solid running game. Their offensive line is pretty good. So if he can just be that guy that, I don't want to say game manager, but if he could just be that guy that picks and chooses his spots, he plays well in the big games. Today I thought he played pretty well today. After a slow start, I think he picked it up in the second half. I didn't watch a lot of that game because, with Red Zone, I was kind of bouncing around, but, I saw the important stuff, obviously. So, it looked like he kind of picked it up there in the second half, but yeah, I don't think they need Big Ben to really be that guy every single game, right? They just need him to kind of do what Big Ben does, be smart, make plays, not put them in a situation where they're going to lose the game necessarily. So yeah, I'm bullish on the Steelers, man. I think this game, if you look at their schedule, this game and then the game on Thanksgiving night might be their 2 toughest tests left of the season, I think. Obviously they play in a really tough division. Obviously the Browns are always going to play the Steelers tough. And Cincinnati, of course, even in rebuilding, Joe Burrow's balling, man. Joe Burrow is balling. I mean, I love Joe Burrow. I just knew that kid was going to come to Cincinnati and instantly make them better, so I'm not surprised by that. So look, they play in a very competitive division, but I just think the Steelers are really good, man. Their defense is incredible. Even when they don't play quote unquote their best, that defense is still incredible, and they just have playmakers all over that defense, and that's what you love. That's a sign of a great defense when you have playmakers on every level of that defense. I'm bullish on the Steelers, man. I think the Steelers, to me, I don't know if they can beat Kansas City just yet. I mean, I think they can beat Kansas City. It just depends on where the game is. And right now, I mean, I think they're sitting pretty to get home field advantage. So, I mean, obviously that all depends. Has the NFL even decided what they're going to do with their postseason situation? A lot of rumors that they might do a bubble situation. We'll see. Nothing's been, announced as of yet. But I mean, if everything kind of stays the way it normally is, I think, Pittsburgh and Kansas City, in Pittsburgh for the AFC Championship, that's going to be a very good game. In late January, whenever the hell we have that game. I'm bullish on the Steelers though, man, for real. I'm with you on that. What about the Ravens? Are you concerned about the Ravens?
I mean, if you want to say concerned in the sense of like, do I think they can win the Super Bowl? The answer is no. But are they a playoff team that can be dangerous if they get hot? Yeah. I mean, I think Lamar, I wouldn't say he's peaked, but I think the league's kind of gotten used to him. I think he is a solid quarterback. I don't think he's like MVP type level as he was last year. I think their defense is very vulnerable. I just don't see them. I don't know. I think they're a solid playoff team, and that's it. Nothing more than that. I would put Tennessee over them, take Pittsburgh over them.
Really? Tennessee over them. Okay. I mean,
Tennessee, if they can run the football, control the clock, they can beat anybody. Yeah. My beef with Tennessee is that they don't really make plays on defense. I would like to see more of that defensively.
Yeah.
He had to in that aspect. But I would choose. I mean, look what happened last year in the playoffs. I know there's 217.
That's true. Yeah. What about the narrative about Lamar Jackson against good teams? Because I'm someone that never really necessarily buys into media created narratives, but I think this is something that I think you have to start, paying attention to. Like, I mean, it's hard to kind of ignore it when it, the record is what it is, and you just see it, against the also-rans of the leagues, against the Jets and stuff like that. Lamar Jackson, I know, right? I'm taking shots at my own team. What the hell? We're 0-8, and we just are historically bad. Why not?
Trevor, baby. Let's go.
Tank for Trevor. Hey, we traded Avery Williamson for a 2022 7th round pick. Jesus Christ. We'll all be dead by 2022. But hey, Joe Douglas in his infinite wisdom, go ahead and get a 7th round pick. But anyway, Avery Williamson. So that Steelers defense only gets better. What was I saying? I lost my train of thought. I'm getting old, guys. I'm sorry. This is my birthday month. Lamar Jackson. Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to, even myself, who likes to ignore kind of the media narratives that are out there, I think it's hard to kind of ignore this when you see the record, and it's just so stark, against the also-rans of the league, and he kills it. He's a baller. He's an MVP, right? And then against good teams, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Tennessee, Patriots, whatever. It's not so good, right? So are you concerned about that, or you still kind of are reserving judgment on that?
No, I am concerned about it. I mean, Lamar, he is what he is, right? He's a phenomenal athlete. He can run the football better than anyone in the position other than probably Michael Vick. But, when you ask him to drop back and read coverages and, do other things and make plays against good defenses or against playoff caliber defenses, he just hasn't proven that he can do that yet. And that's not saying he's a bad pocket passer. I think he's a little better than people give him credit for. He's better than I thought he'd be. I'm not someone who watches college football. So, going into the season, his career, that's what I heard about him. And so that's what I paid attention to. But he's impressed me here and there. I think he's a little better than people thought he'd be, but he still has improvements to do. So, yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't think he's MVP type caliber, unstoppable, one of the best of all time. I think he's going to settle in this top 10 range where he can be very dangerous with his legs and he can beat with the arm depending on how your defense is. But at the end of the day, if you have a good defense like Pittsburgh and he has to make decisions and stay in the pocket and make plays happen from the pocket and they contain him with his running game, he's average at best. But he can work on that. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's still got time, obviously, right? I mean, he's still very, very young. I mean, it's hard to imagine that he's only in his third league, right? His third year in the league, and he's already an MVP, multiple time Pro Bowler. I mean, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't think either one of us are debating that. I think the key, we know what Lamar can do in the regular season. We know what he can do against the also-rans of the league, like I said. But you're graded on how you do against big teams. In the biggest of moments. And I think the next step for him is to take that next step as a quarterback is to him to win those big games, to go on the road and beat a Kansas City, even at home to beat a Kansas City or a Pittsburgh or, if you want to throw Buffalo in there, a Buffalo, whatever. That's the next step for him. And he's got to prove it. And look, we know he's dangerous with his legs, but he's got to make those throws in the pocket. He's got to make those throws. Right.
Passer, it's because there's people out there who's he is what he is, and you can let him be what he is and let him be great doing what he does. But do you think that when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, if you're going to win a Super Bowl, you have to have some type of pocket presence? You have to be a pocket passer to some extent.
Yes, I do. I'm still very much in that core. To me, the great quarterback, the all-time great quarterback, and that's what That's the seat in which Lamar Jackson wants to have, right? He wants to be that upper echelon, great, franchise, elite, whatever adjective you want to use to describe it. The level of quarterback that he wants to be, I still think you have to make plays in the pocket. You got to make those big throws, 3rd and 8,
And in there, take the hit.
Take a hit, yeah. You got to make those. You got to make those plays. Brady would do it. Breeze would do it, Roethlisberger would do it, Phillip Rivers would do it. I mean, the great quarterbacks that, his contemporaries, Mahomes, they would all do that, and that's why they're, and obviously the case of Rivers, not so much, but, all those other guys, that's why they have Super Bowl rings, right? Because they've made those big throws when it mattered. And I think that Lamar Jackson has to take that next step, right? And he still has time. Right?
And he does it every once in a while. It's not like he doesn't do it. He can't do it.
Right.
He can do it. He doesn't do it consistently.
Right. And we'll see. I mean, I'm not concerned, but I am starting to. My antenna is up. I'll just say that. Like, okay. I'll just be like, okay. A narrative is starting to form here. Like, okay, this is right. Yeah. We'll see. I don't know. They're not the same team they were last year. Obviously, I think they miss Ingram. Ingram brought a lot to that team. I don't know. Offensively, they're very hot and cold, that team, and I think that a lot of that has to do with Lamar, right? Like, I think the problem with quarterbacks that play that same style that Lamar plays, it's almost like a chaotic style of offense, right? Doesn't it feel like that? Like, it's just kind of like when they're not, I feel like that was my criticism of Russell Wilson in the past before this year. Like, it almost just felt.
Russell, he does not go out the pocket. He'll get out the pocket and throw, but he's not going to run just for the sake of running.
But what I mean by that is that you remember, like, in years past, Russell would have those clunkers of games, and every quarterback does, right? I mean, every quarterback has a clunker, right? But Russell would have those, like, frustratingly bad games where you're just like, dude, what are you like? Where are you throwing to? Like, those devil, Seahawk fans will call it the Darrell Bevel specials, right? Where he just have these, like, just inexcusably bad games, right? And I feel like a lot of that is a microcosm of, like, those kind of quarterbacks, right? Those running, quote unquote, running quarterbacks, right? Where it's like a chaotic offense where it doesn't feel like if they can't use their legs or if they can't beat you or if they're facing a tough defense that's geared to stop them. I don't know if they have that extra gear to really beat you from the pocket. I think Russell's gotten better from the pocket, and he's always had the accuracy, but I always felt like he was a little impatient in the pocket. Like, I always kind of felt like he was just always so, again, chaotic, right? Where he was just like, oh, I got to make a run, or I got to be. He never really focused on his progressions and his throws, even though his accuracy has always been there. And I think there's some of that with Lamar. But yeah, I still think the kid is a tremendous talent and has the opportunity to be a phenomenal quarterback. I mean, obviously he's already proven that he can be a dynamic playmaker. So it's just taking that next step, and he's going to get opportunities starting with this postseason. He's going to get opportunities to make the plays. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. Anything else that stuck out to you in next week's games? Anything good or bad?
The NFC East. The most trash division.
Yo, this is we're watching it right now in the background. It's 23-9, 3 minutes left, obviously.
You know it's bad when it's a Sunday night football game in the fourth quarter. And we're just like, what's the top line?
Yeah, just screw it. Yo, dude, honestly, if it wasn't because I had the kids running around and doing stuff, we would have recorded this like earlier because I just had no interest in watching this game.
Every team is awful.
Vic Damone Jr. or whatever his name is, that's starting at quarterback for the Cowboys. Like, Danucci is his name. The kid, he hasn't played terrible, but it's just it is terrible.
Manny, it's awful. Come on.
It's bad. It really is bad. Like, I'm trying not to be so negative. I'm trying to save my negative. I'm trying to save my negativity for election talk. But yeah, it's bad, bro. Like, this might be the worst Sunday night football game I have ever seen. And there's been some bad ones throughout the years.
Kyle Allen might be the best quarterback in the division.
That yeah, as currently constituted.
Like, Kyle Allen. I can't even say that. Yeah, right. You almost Dwayne Haskins might be the second best quarterback as currently constituted. Yeah. As a Giants fan, I don't know. I haven't been in New York, obviously, for a long time. I've lived in Los Angeles, so I don't know what sports talk radio is like. For those of you who don't know, sports talk radio in New York is huge. Like that, It's like that's what we do. I don't know what the narrative around Daniel Jones is, but I'll tell you this: if people are not calling to the station ripping him, because I know they're losing to Tampa on Monday. Daniel Jones, incredible. He's been living off that comeback in Tampa Bay.
Dog, thank you. Much. Oh my God!
Much cushion. He has been outside of that game and maybe like a couple of others that year. He's been awful.
bad.
And
Terrible.
Wayne Haskins being as awful, it would forget it. But there's been so much leeway with this guy. I mean, this is just based off of Twitter, and this is based off of comments that I see with my friends. They still call him Danny Dimes, which is an absolute joke. He's been absolutely awful. I mean, and I understand that you need players need time to develop, right? It took Eli 4 years. In Eli's 4th year, he won the Super Bowl, but during that year, people were calling for his head. People wanted him out. So I understand being patient. However, when you see all these quarterbacks coming in the first year, second year, winning MVPs, like Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson winning MVPs in the second year, you have to wonder, like, all right, well, is this a new way?
To be fair with that, because I always try to have a different view on that, right? Because I always think that not every situation is created the same, right? Like, it's easy to say, like, oh, Mahomes came in and won an MVP in his second year. But, yeah, he's also throwing to Travis Kelce. I mean, like, I could play quarterback for the Chiefs and be remotely respectable as a quarterback, right? Like, you could put this kid DiNucci on the Chiefs and he'd figure out a way to freaking throw 200 yards passing. Like, it's not a very high bar there. And that's not taking away from Mahomes' greatness, because we all know Mahomes is legit top flight, right? But I always kind of feel like it's a little bit of an unfair comparison to say compare a Daniel Jones and say, well, why isn't he where he should be? Look at Mahomes and look at Lamar Jackson. I'm like, the situations are totally different, right? Lamar Jackson has a better infrastructure around him than a Daniel Jones, right? Or a Sam Darnold or Dwayne Haskins, et cetera, right? So I don't think that you can compare those two. That being said, your eyes can't deceive you, right? You're watching this and you're seeing these things, and you can't be an apologist. Like, if a guy's not playing well and he's not I think the biggest thing with a young quarterback is he learning from his mistakes? Is he getting better week by week? And in the specific case of Daniel Jones, he's just not.
He's regressing. I mean, he's
regressing. He's regressing completely. And I hear this notion that, they don't have a lot of talent around him. He's got more talent than people think. I mean, I know Evan Ingram. I know Giants fans think that Evan Ingram is like the worst tight end to ever walk the face of the earth. I don't understand that.
No, he's just not used properly. Evan Ingram's he's probably the quickest tight end in the league, or one of the quickest tight ends in the league. You have Darius Slayton, who he has a nice connection with, who's been a solid surprise. Golden State is one of the most studied receivers.
Sterling Shepard.
It's a slot. I mean, Saquon's injured, but when you have Saquon, you have him there. The line sucks. I'll say that. The line's always been awful in New York. But listen, he has legs. He can move. And like Russell Wilson played with a bad line. Like he's made it work. Lamar makes it work. Like these mobile quarterbacks make it work. My thing with Daniel Jones, he's very hesitant. He has an open read. He doesn't take it. He hesitates. He holds onto the ball, fumble, throws it away. Or he just, I don't know what it is. It's something's not clicking for him. If you watch the film, there are times where he has an open receiver, just looks him off for whatever reason.
He plays with like a scared look. Right? Like, he just plays with.
I didn't see that, like, in the beginning of his career. I don't know what happened. I don't know if there was like a play or a game that kind of just.
I don't know. I don't know what it is, man. But just look at, I know people like to make fun of Sam Darnold with the ghost, right? But he's actually the guy that I think a lot of times sees ghosts too. Like, he's just like, there's like a deer and a headlight look to him. Like, he's just like, dude, are you watching the same thing that everybody else at home is watching? Like, it's hard to comprehend. Yeah. The Giants are, I try to revel in the Giants' pain, obviously, but as a Jet fan, but yeah, the division is just terrible. I don't understand the Cowboys. Like, for all that talent that team has, and you could say it's Mike McCarthy. Look, you can't just put it all on Mike McCarthy. He's been there 6 games.
But that defense, I don't know what's going on with that defense. I mean, honestly, when Dak was healthy, they were balling out offensively. They did dig a lot of holes, and a lot of the offense came after they were down like 20 points or something like that. But that defense has just been historically bad. I don't like blaming.
I don't understand it, because they have good players on that defense. Like, I that's what I don't get. That's been the biggest surprise for me this NFL season. It's just how bad that Cowboys defense has been. And look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I thought that the Cowboys defense was going to be the 85 Bears. Obviously not. But that defense is, to me, that defense, from the names on the field playing, that defense should be way better. There's no reason why that defense should be historically bad. There's just no reason. And that's coaching. That's just coaching and players, of course. Obviously, players are not playing up to their potential, but that's coaching. As a coach, you got to get those players ready to play each and every Sunday, and they haven't. The NFC East is, man, this is bad. I mean, The NFL is going to have a problem too, because if a below 500 team, I mean, and in this case, I mean, I'm not talking about 7-9. I mean, you could conceivably see a situation where a 5-11, 6-10 type of record will probably win that division, and they're going to host a playoff game at home. How? They're going to have to address that. Like, they're going to have to reseed, man. That's not fair. You can't ask a fucking 10-6, 11-5 New Orleans to go to 5-11 Philly. Like, and yeah, people could say, oh, well, New Orleans, the best team always win. You know, the NFL, one game, you know.
Right. Like when New Orleans went to Seattle at one time.
Right. Exactly. So, you know, yeah, I think the NFL is going to have to really address that, man, because but they won't. They'll probably call it an aberration. And it's one of those things where.
I mean, we've seen this a few times. The Panthers made it 7-9 one year. The Seahawks that 1 year, and then they ended up beating the Saints, which would have been, honestly, that Saints team could have won a Super Bowl if they had like a path through the Superdome. I mean, the Saints have always been relying on, but I remember that team being like they had all their home games. Right. You know, you can make a case that they made the Super Bowl, but yeah, it's a problem. I mean, none of these teams deserve even a sniff at the playoffs whatsoever. It's probably the most pathetic division I've ever seen. And this is sad coming from someone, I'm a Giants fan, and growing up, like the NFC East was known as the NFC Beast or whatever. And right. It was one of the better divisions growing up, at least when I was watching. To see it turn into this, it's disgusting. It's
terrible. Yeah, it's funny, but it's terrible. It's funny if you hate all those teams, but it's also like from a football fan perspective, it's just like, you know, this is crazy. The fact that like, I almost said it, the Redskins, the Washington football team might just, and you can make a case for any one of those teams. Like,
I think if I told you, I have my money on Washington. I have my money on Washington.
I can't argue. I can't tell you you're wrong right now. I mean, who the hell knows? I mean, I sure. If you want to go with Washington, sure. If you want to go with the Giants, sure. If you want to go with the Eagles, I will say the Eagles. I think the Eagles will figure out a way to win that division as long as Carson Wentz stays upright. You know, Peterson is there. He's probably the best. Not probably. He is probably the best coach in that division.
Ron Rivera?
Him and Ron Rivera, pretty much neck and neck. Yeah, I can't even give you a prediction right now because it's week to week. You know, let's talk about it throughout the weeks and we'll see. Like, honestly, you can make a case for all four of those teams winning the division. Sadly. Yeah. Surprised how bad the Jets got beat down? No.
Whatever the spread was, I would have taken it with my eyes closed.
It was 19.5, I think.
Listen, it was a game early. A little.
Yeah, it's always a game early. 0-0 is a game for the Jets, so it's a game.
I watched.
Oh, my God.
Every time that game came out, it was just like Tyreek Hill touchdown, Cole Hardman touchdown. Like I was like, all right, this is exactly what I expected it to be.
Like, why is Adam Gase still employed? Like,
I have no idea. It might be pride at this point.
It's definitely pride, and I think they're waiting for the bye week, right, to do the NFL thing where you fire him in the bye. What's the point?
There's no point in doing this.
What's the point?
You're depleting Sam, which is probably not a part of your future anymore at this point, right?
No.
Now I'll ask you: number one pick, you taking Trevor Lawrence, or are you holding on to Sam Darnold and you're shipping that?
If you get the number one pick, you have to get Trevor Lawrence. I mean, you can't pass up on a quarterback of that level. I mean, you just can't. I mean, even I don't care who you have. I mean, unless you have one of the top 8 quarterbacks currently playing. But see, even then, right? There's a reason why. Unless you have a bona fide elite quarterback playing.
I'm trying to find someone who's like in that plane where it's going to be like, oh.
Okay, so if you're Miami, would you take Trevor Lawrence over Tua? I think you would, right?
Yes.
If you're Cincinnati, no, because Burrow, obviously. If you're Cleveland, would you take Trevor Lawrence over Baker Mayfield? Absolutely. If you're Jacksonville, I'm sure, of course. Giants, of course. Redskins, of course. Chargers, no, obviously, now that Herbert's established himself. Houston, no, probably not. Tennessee.
That's interesting.
That would be interesting. Obviously, that would mean that, Ryan Tannehill basically, flopped, right? Obviously, he's not. We're just doing what ifs, obviously, right? But I'm trying to think of other teams. San Francisco, I think you would. I think they would. Absolutely, I think they would. Yeah. Seattle, obviously, no. Arizona, probably not. The Rams, no. No, I think they're in embedded with Goff and McVay as a partnership, man. So I don't see it.
That name that I was looking for when I was thinking about that name.
I think
go either way on.
Yeah, I mean, Goff is an interesting guy, man, because Goff is a guy that he's a weird. Goff has a lot of Eli in him, right? Like some weeks you just watch him and he's just like, man, the throws he makes, the pocket presence and awareness. I mean, it's there. And then you just watch him against a game like today, right? You're just like, is this the same guy against the Bears and the Dodgers? Like he's a very weird quarterback to evaluate. Eli was like that, right? Like I think the people, when you're evaluating Eli's Hall of Fame credentials, right? It's going to be tough because the guy just doesn't, you watch him from game to game. In some games he's amazing and other games he's just terrible. And there's really no in between, right? And Goff is a lot like that too. It's hard to evaluate. I still think though, Goff things would really have to hit. I think they would have to have play the scenario out. They would have had to have back to back 5-11, 6-10 type years for them to even make a consideration. Yeah, they're going to make the playoffs, and they're still. And Goff has played well this year. He's really played well this year. Outside of a couple clunkers today, not excluded, right? I think he's played really well this year.
He's been solid.
Yeah, he's been good. But Goff is an interesting. I got one. The Eagles.
I think they do it. I think they take Trevor.
Really? Carson Wentz?
Yeah, man. They took Jalen Hurts.
Not because against defending Carson Wentz. I was just saying, would they pull the plug on Carson Wentz just yet?
I do. I think there are a lot of people in the organization that are tired of him. I have a feeling this is not based off of anything except speculation and what I think in my head. I think there's a little bit of a division ever since Nick Foles won that Super Bowl that without him. I know there were some rumblings saying that a lot of the players preferred playing with Nick Foles. I think that carries over.
Yeah.
I think there are players in that locker room and some people in the organization just don't look at him as a leader, or they just are ready to move on from him. I mean, I think he's insanely talented. Obviously, he could have been the MVP that year before he got hurt. But I think it would serve him best and maybe the Eagles best to move on.
Carson Wentz is a very interesting case study right now because it's where did it go wrong? Was it just Nick Foles winning that Super Bowl, or was it kind of a combination of a lot of things? Because people forget, 3 years ago, this guy was the MVP. I mean, if he didn't hurt himself, he would have won the MVP that year. Yeah. And, ever since then, it's just been just a gradual decline. I don't think it's been all him. I think it's been a combination. I think it's been the roster. That roster has just not
wide receiver
well. Right. Doug Peterson, I don't think he's done a tremendously great job in coaching him. I don't think. I think it's been a combination. And, look, he has not been good. Got to be honest. Got to keep it 100. He has not been consistent. He's another guy where some weeks he plays great and other weeks he's just all over the place where, his accuracy, which is something that I used to love when he was at North Dakota. His accuracy just comes and goes. I mean, again, games where you just watch him and he's just throwing dimes out there. And in other games, he's just where are you throwing the football?
In games at this point, it's play to play. There's plays.
Yeah.
That was
even tonight. Even tonight against I know statistically bad Cowboys defense. Yeah. I mean, some of those throws that he's making, I'm like, where are you throwing the football to? I mean, just the decision making. I mean, he's playing like Carson Wentz as a rookie. I just don't. I don't understand the Carson Wentz situation. It is mind-boggling to me how much he's regressed. And I think the Eagles. Yeah, you're right. I think the Eagles probably do it if they were in a situation where they could draft Trevor Lawrence. I think they would probably do it. Yeah, I think so. Steelers only. I think they would do it just because of Big Ben, because of his age.
And then you have Lawrence sit out a year, and you kind of
right. Right. I think the Steelers would do it. I think the Colts obviously would do it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the Colts would do it. I'm trying to think of teams. Minnesota, I think absolutely.
Cowboys.
Yeah, I think they would. Trevor Lawrence. Oh yeah, long hair, quarterback. You could just. I mean, that's right. Yeah, that just writes itself right there, right? Yeah. Trevor Lawrence as the Cowboys starting quarterback. I mean, it just writes itself.
I could just see the season ticket promos with the American background.
The All-American boy. You know, some stories just write themselves. That would be one of them. I had one in my head and I forgot about it. Damn. It was the Cowboys and
Aaron and Jordan Love are there.
Chicago?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've always thought, I mean, not so much anymore, but I thought, if they had any semblance of a quarterback when that year Trubisky was decent and the Eagles beat them, I think they would win the Super Bowl. They would win the Super Bowl that year.
Yeah, probably.
They were just
Yeah, they were. I think the Bears would absolutely do it. There was another team that I thought was interesting.
Absolutely.
If they would do it. New Orleans. I think New Orleans would. Breeze.
Yeah.
Tampa.
Yeah.
I don't think Tampa would do it. I think Brady's running that organization. So we all know what happened last time there was a young quarterback behind Tom.
I don't understand about I got to give it up to Tom Brady. I'm not a Tom Brady hater. I'm a Tom Brady legacy hater in the sense where, I don't think he's the greatest quarterback I've ever seen. I think he's the greatest resume I've ever seen, obviously, with the Super Bowls and everything like that. But this motherfucker, he's still balling. How?
Man.
What the hell?
Hey, man.
Really?
That's how I think LeBron is going to be, yo. I think LeBron is going to be 45, still fucking dunking on people. This shit is going to be crazy.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, people say he has two more years. No, LeBron has 5 years left.
I think LeBron's going to play as long as he wants to play. I secretly think, I know we just made a weird shift to basketball real quick, but I think LeBron is trying to hold out till his son comes in the league. Yep. That's the type of shit that I think LeBron's doing.
If his son gets in the league, we don't know how good his son is yet.
Right. We don't know. But yeah, I can see LeBron doing that. I can see LeBron basically let me hold out for – I can see LeBron finishing out these 2 years with the Lakers and then going back to Cleveland.
Yeah, you know what? That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
It would be. Or he would purposely end whatever contract he signs next with the Lakers or Cleveland to on the year that his son gets drafted and then he joins the team his son gets put on or something like that.
Speaking of LeBron, did you watch the interview of the year?
I did not watch that interview. I am not a good company man.
No.
I couldn't have said it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
I couldn't watch it. Listen, the company was really excited about it. And rightfully so. You get the president.
Right. I mean, you get Obama, right? It's
Obama's a cool dude. I mean, we both have, our opinions about how he was as a president. And it's a big deal. It's a big deal, but I wasn't down with the platitudes and.
Yeah, I honestly I have no interest in watching it. I was going to watch it for the show, but then I was just it feels very Puff Piece-ish, where it's going to be.
I didn't see, man. It's very Puff Piece-ish. That was. I mean, Obama's a cool dude, relatively speaking, for a president. At the end of the day, that's all platitudes.
Yeah, and I hate athlete interviews. That's why I don't listen to athlete-led, podcasts. Sorry, Josh, I know you produce several athlete-led podcasts. I don't, because I just always, are athletes going to ask those tough questions? There's certain athletes that will, I think, the Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson podcast. I think they actually do ask some pretty. Well, yeah, and they're also retired, right? Yeah, I just don't think athletes are interviewers, man. I don't think they're journalists. I don't think they're guys I don't even think they have that sense that we do, right? That would ask a tough question or would ask a question that would be something that would be on the minds of a normal fan. I think with another athlete, You know, it's like, do you really want to hear LeBron? Like, LeBron's not going to ask, you know, Obama, like, hey, why did you drink out of the water cup in Flint? Like, he's not going to ask him that shit. Like, he's not going to do that. You just know he's not going to do that.
But, you know, we started bombing other countries. There's no effing way.
Hey, what was your policy on Libya during your presidency? Can you evaluate on that as he's getting a lineup? Like, no, he's not doing that.
Why did you compromise on a watered down private insurance healthcare?
That's not doing it. So no, I'll probably check it out. I'll probably check it out, see what it's about. You know, after we probably finish here, I have Borat to watch, full disclosure. And then after Borat, if I make it long enough, I'll probably check it out. But yeah, it's not appointment television. I'm sorry. I just can't,
no, man.
You know, But going back to football, I know we made a weird diversion into basketball for a second. But yeah, no, I think that there's a lot of teams that I think that if you put them under the barrel of having to draft for Trevor Lawrence, I think a lot of teams probably would. I mean, he's just that good of a general. I know you're not into college football. He's amazing, man.
Like that, you have to. I mean, I don't watch college football. Everything I read about him, it's not so much he's like the LeBron of college football, but he's like the next, like Andrew Luck, right? Comparable.
Yeah. There's guys that are just can't miss. Like that, like very, like Andrew Luck was a can't miss. Like you just knew, and it was just how good was Andrew Luck going to be. That's it. It was just how good was. And the same thing with Trevor Lawrence. Like Trevor Lawrence is just how good is he going to be? Is he going to be really good right away, or is he going to be amazing right away? Is he going to be okay to good? Right. I mean, it's just how good is he going to be? So yeah, Trevor Lawrence, I think there'd be, again, outside of like maybe 5, 6, 7 teams, I think every other team would be falling all over themselves to try to draft a Trevor Lawrence. So going back to your original question, yeah, I think if the Jets are in a position where they can get rid of or draft Trevor Lawrence, I think you have to. I wouldn't for Justin Fields. I wouldn't for Trey Lance, even though I like those guys. I don't think those are once in a generation quarterbacks. Like, I don't think that a Justin Fields is a guy that you necessarily say, okay, I'm done with Sam Darnold. But Trevor Lawrence is. Yeah. So, and you know, and can we stop with this like bullshit that, you know, Trevor Lawrence is not going to come out of college?
Oh, he's coming out.
Of course he is. And he's not going to. And first of all, like this narrative, like, oh, the Jets are so bad. Why would Trevor Lawrence want to play there? Why would Joe Burrow want to go to Cincinnati? Like, was Cincinnati that much of a better situation last year than the Jets are this year? Like, no, the Cincinnati was terrible last year, and Joe Burrow still came out, and obviously he had no choice; he was a senior. But like, Joe Burrow came out, and he didn't pull his muscle. He went to Cincinnati, right? You know, we could think of countless. Like, I think everybody wants to relive the Elway and Eli thing, so they just concoct these narratives. And look, he's not. First of all, the other thing you got to think about it too is if the Jets go 1-15, if the Jets are in a position to draft Trevor Lawrence, which they will be at this rate, because either they've gone 1-15 or 0-16. By the way, I think they're going 0-16. Adam Gase is gone. It's just a matter of, is he gone next week? Is he gone at the end of the year? He's gone. Right. So there's going to be a new coach there. Joe Douglas is already there. Joe Douglas carries some cachet. I necessarily haven't been a fan of his GM as a GM so far. I know he's only been there a year and a half. But, you know, Joe Douglas's name carries a lot of weight in the league. And from his resume, I think it should. So, yeah, I think obviously when Trevor Lawrence decides to come out and the Jets draft him, which they will, he's coming into a completely different organization than what you currently see right now, obviously. So can we please put that shit to rest? Please.
No, right. And in football, it could change like that. Like, it really can. Football's a one sport where, like...
Look at the Bengals.
Yeah.
Look at the Bengals.
Yeah, the Bengals are going to finish maybe like 5-11 or 5-10-1. They have that one tie, but like a very competitive, like respectable team that next year you could see them maybe being 500 and fighting for an AFC playoff spot, depending on how the standings shape out. So it could happen. It could absolutely happen.
There's no long rebuilds in football. Really, honestly, if you're a team that's uncompetitive for long periods of time, it's bad management more so than like a rebuild.
I agree.
So I think that if you're the Jets, I mean, as bad as, and that's like the one hope that I can give Jet fans is, you know, as bad as it is right now, you know, in 2 years, with Trevor Lawrence, but I'm a Jets fan, so I can't think like that, obviously. So who knows? Watch us draft Trevor Lawrence and he fucking breaks his kneecap in rookie camp. It's gonna.
That would be, dude. That would happen.
That's my life, though. Like, as a Jet fan, like, like the most Jets thing ever will happen when.
My god!
Right? Like, or the fact that like Trevor Lawrence, the ultimate can't miss prospect, misses. That'd be the Jets. That'd be the Jets. Yep. Like the Jets are the only team that drafts the Alabama players that can't play. Think about it.
No, you're right.
Think about it. D. Milner. Darius Stewart, or Darius Stewart. God, Quinnen's coming along.
Quinnen's having it's funny because like if there's one bright spot this year that I've seen when I'm watching, it's him.
Yeah. And Mims looks good. I was a little worried about Mims because he didn't play and he's in witness protection for like the first 7 weeks of the season. But, Mims looks good. So, yeah, I mean, we got some bright spots. I mean, as bright as everything can be in an 0-8 disastrous situation.
You'll get something for Darnold. You will. You can get something.
I mean, if Rosen got you a second-round pick, I got to believe Darnold can get you a late one, right?
I still believe in Sam. I really do. I think in the right system, he can be fine. I think his decision making is head scratching at some points, but I still think he's gonna be pretty good.
I think Sam is the type of guy that Sam can win when all the pieces are around him. I think that Sam is not that guy that necessarily will elevate the players around him, but I think if you put Sam Darnold on the Colts, you mean to tell me the Colts aren't still a really good team?
They're very good. They're better than they are right now. I think they're better with Sam than they are with Phillip, to be honest with you.
If you put Sam Darnold on the Browns are still very good. I think he's better than Baker Mayfield.
Just about to say that. Better than Baker, 1,000%.
And people flamed me on Twitter when I said that last year. I was like, Baker Mayfield is not as good as Sam Darnold. He's just not. Baker Mayfield has Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Austin Hooper, or had Austin, all of these weapons, and he's still struggling.
And it just goes to show you what coaching does. Ryan Tannehill was coached by Adam Gase in Miami, and look what he's doing now. And it's not saying that, Ryan Tannehill is burning the house down and he's not like this world beater, but you see
he's a good quarterback.
Coaching, yeah.
He's a way better quarterback
and
than he ever was in Miami.
I think Sam is more talented than Ryan Tannehill. I think Sam is has a higher ceiling. So, absolutely. I mean, you give Sam pieces, you give him right coaching staff. Why couldn't he do that?
Yeah. I could see a team like the Steelers maybe trading like a late one for a Sam Darnold. If you're in a situation like the Steelers where you need to start thinking about the heir apparent to Ben, why not? Why not? Same thing with obviously the Colts. There's some other team. I mean, the Falcons. Is Matt Ryan long for? I know their record probably they'll be in a situation that they could probably pick somewhere in the top 10 to. I think the Falcons they'll improve, but we'll see. But if you're the Falcons, I mean, if you have an opportunity to get a Sam Darnold to be the heir apparent to Matt Ryan for a couple of years, why not?
Do it.
Yeah. So, I'm not worried about the whole Sam Darnold situation. I think that I think it's sad that it ended up like this, where he's going to be a guy that's going to flourish away from New York. But yeah, it's just going to have to happen because it's just, and the Jets are stupid. So they basically did everything backwards. They did their rebuild after they had their young quarterback that was supposed to be the franchise. Right. So now his rookie scale is done basically. So this is my life as a Jet fan. Like, this is my life.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Like, I feel bad.
But hey, Woody Johnson's getting ready to come back from his little field trip in Wales.
You think, right? You think he's going to stay permanently, or if Trump wins another 4 years, what he's doing?
Nah, those positions It used to tend to like replace those positions really.
Oh, they do?
Really,
okay.
Oh yeah. So no, I think I don't know, man. Don't ask me. I'm sure we'll get into it with the election stuff, but as far as Woody Johnson, I mean, I'm not. His brother's completely inept, so Woody's not that much. I mean, it's sad that like Woody Johnson might actually be the best of the Johnson family, which is sad.
He has been. I don't think it's even. He was around with the Rex era. That was all Woody, right?
Yeah, that was Woody. Yeah, and what I wouldn't say that I've defended Woody Johnson. Like, I think Woody's Woody's not a bad guy. Like, he doesn't know football. He's not like a genius when it comes to football. Obviously, you could tell. But I think Woody's a guy that does want to win. Like, I don't think he's like, Jeff Wilpon, who's just completely a moron. Like, I think he's a guy that I think the problem with the Johnsons is that I think they should have always had a football guy, a Scott Pioli type that runs the organization, let the football operation be to that guy, and then Woody Johnson could just kind of sit in the background, write the checks. I think if that was the situation, I think the Jets would be in a better situation. Hopefully, after this year, they let Joe Douglas do Joe Douglas, be the guy.
We'll see.
And run the organization. But we'll see. I can't sit here and predict anything with the Jets because the Jets are a complete shit show. They are completely inept. When you think the most common sense thing to do, the Jets will find the way to do the opposite of that. So there it is. There it is, man.
No lies, man. No lies.
No lies. Let's transition over to our friend Kevin Cash. God, geez, I got a lot to say, so I'll let
go ahead. I'll let you go first. I'll let you go first. You take it.
I know it's been a few days, so my anger has simmered a little bit, but Kevin Cash, man, and I like Kevin Cash. I think Kevin Cash is a really good manager. I think he's proven it. You don't take Tampa Bay, that team, to within a 6 game of a World Series and not be a really good manager. I think he's a really good manager. I like Kevin Cash. I think everything I hear from him, every time I hear him talk at interviews, people around him, they say he's a really good guy, great guy. You can't make that decision. I mean, that decision is something that is going to haunt that franchise for a long time. It is. That is up there. That's a decision that will haunt a franchise for a generation. It really will. It's up there with,
Terry Collins. But Terry Collins, even Matt Harvey.
This is
opposite. It's the opposite spectrum.
This is worse, but this is worse, right? Like, this is worse. I mean, but it's up there with, Dusty Baker taking out Russell Ortiz in game 6 of the 0-2 World Series. Like, this is up there. These are just those decisions that will haunt a franchise. Like, that Blake Snell was the best player, not the pitcher, like the best player on the field that night. And you robbed him of a moment of having a like, to me, if I'm Kevin Cash, right, and I'm watching that game, your offense is shit. You're not scoring runs. I mean, you're a putrid offensive team. You know that I am going to probably win this game on the back of Blake Snell. So if you're Kevin Cash, you have to tell yourself, I don't care what the numbers say. Take your little Excel spreadsheet, throw it in the garbage, and say, I am riding this guy until his arm falls off.
Yeah. I mean, I guess just to play devil's advocate, I mean, the Rays all season, right? One of the best bullpens in the league. You shorten the game 6 innings. And you think got it.
This is my problem. But this is my problem with analytics, right? Analytics.
I'm with you on this. Yeah.
Analytics takes all of these scenarios into play, right? What a guy does against right-handers, what a guy does against left-handers, what a pitcher does against right-handed hitters and left-handed hitters. How a pitcher pitches in the day as opposed to night. How a pitcher pitches when he's got a suntan as opposed to when he doesn't have a suntan. What a pitcher does when his wife's in town, when his wife's renting instead of owning. I mean, all of these, equations get thrown into this database. How come when it comes to when analytics, it doesn't measure the things that everybody else also sees? Like, for the entire postseason, basically since the last half of that Houston series, the Rays bullpen has been leaking water because they've been overused, right? Yeah. So why doesn't analytics tell you, our bullpen is kind of taking on water? So if we're getting a very good outing for one of our starting pitchers, we might want to ride that, right? Like, we might want to. Why doesn't analytics tell you to do that? Why didn't analytics tell Kevin Cash, right? This wonderful analytics department, right? The 21-year-old intern who graduated from Brown, who's never fucking played baseball in his life outside of wiffle ball, but he's out here giving spreadsheets to Kevin Cash on how to freaking manage a ball game. Why didn't this genius or this group of geniuses tell Kevin Cash, you might not want to take Blake Snell out because Mookie Betts actually doesn't hit left-handers. Like, he struggled against left-handers. Like, why doesn't analytics tell you that?
Because he gave up a single, man.
Oh my God.
He gave up a single. You know how it is.
It's so angering because it's like,
he's done. No, listen, I'm with you, man. I think it's stupid. I mean, I tweeted after the game like the Los Angeles Dodgers defeat the computer in 6 games because that's what it really feels.
They defeated the MacBook. Yeah, they defeated the MacBook. I mean, it's so infuriating.
Yeah,
that you robbed, and you could tell Blake Snell was pissed. He was heartbroken because he left it out. Everything he had, and he was dominating.
But it wasn't like everything he had. He had more to give. Like,
exactly.
He had way more to give. So, like, the whole expression, everything he had is selling him short because it's just like, he could have went 2.5, 3, who knows?
You know it's bad. You know it's bad, right? Yeah. You know it's bad. When you have people that don't even watch baseball.
Right, yeah.
Don't even like baseball. Telling you, hey, I don't know anything about baseball, but why do you take the man out of the game? Like my mother. My mother's telling me, the pitcher's pitching well. Why did you take him out? Like, it is so mind-bogglingly bad. I mean, this is probably the worst decision a coach, a manager has made in a big game since Pete Carroll decided to throw with Russell Wilson there and so on.
That's the worst.
I mean, that's on that level. And look,
it's close.
Who knows? Maybe the Rays don't win that game anyway.
They only scored 1 run. I mean, you could make the case. They scored 1 run. They probably wouldn't have won anyway. It would have to be a 1-0 game. It's hard to hold that Dodgers offense to 0.
But you give yourself a better chance with
I agree
now than you do with Nick Henderson. And even if you're going to take out Blake Snell, which I think was stupid and ridiculous anyway, why would you go to a pitcher that has given up runs for a postseason record 7 straight appearances in which he's pitched? Maybe. Why didn't the computer say, we might not want to go to Nick Anderson here. Let's go to a Diego Castillo or Ryan Yarbrough, whoever the hell you want to come out of that stupid bullpen. Let's go to that. But the MacBook probably wasn't working then when that decision was made. So, it's so mind-bogglingly bad, right? And this is what's killing baseball. This over-reliance on analytics. Like, analytics is good. Right. I think you can I think analytics in all walks of life is good. Like, I think you can look at statistical analysis and say, okay, to help you make determinations. But it shouldn't be the sole thing. It shouldn't be the only reason why you make a decision. Like, baseball is one of those games where you got to go on your feel. You got to go on how you feel and what you're seeing in front of you.
Especially with a pitcher, eye test. Exactly. Like analytics won't be able to tell you if, like, Snell's, breaking ball is breaking more than usual, if it's flat, if he's leaving. Like, there's different things that analysts can't tell you in that moment. If Snell's looking good, if his stuff is breaking, if he's hitting his corners, like, you stick with him. Like, that's eye test. That's knowing the game. And I don't know, man. It's just, it makes me feel like I can be an MLB manager. Like, I can go into the dugout. I can open up a binder. I can be like, okay, this is what this says. I'm going to do. Like, that's literally what they're doing. There's really no type of feel towards it.
And the other problem with this is like, this has been a long time thing where they've been devaluing managers, right? Where they feel like, oh no, let's just get a Josh Rodriguez. Let's give him a bunch of Excel spreadsheets and an iPad and let them run a game. But the problem with that is, right, and that probably works over the course of 162 games. I'm not going to even say probably. It does work over the course of 162 games, right? Like, you can do a semi-competent job. The problem becomes when you get into these postseason series. Like, people always say, like, who's more in the hierarchy of all the sports, right? Who's more important, an NBA coach, an NFL coach, a baseball manager? Right. I would say out of the 4 major sports, I think the baseball manager is the least important.
I agree.
But I would say when it comes to the postseason, I would say an MLB manager has the most effect on whether his team wins or loses, right? Because in those situations, in a 7-game series, that manager can cost you a series. I've seen it happen with my own eyes many a times.
Yeah.
I could make an argument that Terry Collins cost the Mets the 2015 World Series. Like,
Brady Little against the Yankees at one time.
Exactly. Like, and that's the problem. You hire these slubs off the street, give them a spreadsheet and say, manage a ball game. And that works for 162. And then when you get these guys into a postseason situation where they got to sit here and make a right pitching change, where they got to go out there and make a move on field and they don't know what the hell they're doing. There you go. And it's
the Oakland A's would have 7 world championships if everything. went by the book.
It's just mind-bogglingly bad. And if you're like a franchise like Tampa, like the Dodgers made a move like that. Like people, like everybody brings up Dave Roberts, right? But the Dodgers can survive that because they're the Dodgers. They have all the resources. They have all the money. Everybody knows that eventually the Dodgers were going to break through, right? Like it just had too much talent and too much wherewithal to not break through. It may not have been with Dave Roberts as the manager, but eventually they would have broke through, right?
Right.
Tampa, this may be your only crack at it. You are a small market team. This was probably your only shot.
Yeah.
Who knows? You win game 6. Game 7 is a complete toss-up.
Pressure's on the Dodgers at that point.
Right, exactly. So, and you blew it. You blew it, man. And it is so mind-bogglingly bad. I mean, it was an awful decision. And I'll tell you right now, if Kevin Cash was the manager of the Mets or the Yankees or the Phillies, he would not survive it. He would not survive that. He would not survive that. He would not survive that move. He would not survive it. And his answers on it, like, it's bad enough that he makes the move, but his answers on it are just so stupid. Like, you could just tell these guys are just slaves to the numbers. Well, it's the thing we've done all year. Or, like, he gave some stupid answer about, well, we just didn't want him to. It's been a couple days, so I don't. But look it up. Look at the press conference. Like, he gave this stupid responses to these questions. I'm like, dude, you already made a decision. Just say, you know what? Hey, we fucked up. We're fucked. Hey, we went,
take responsibility.
Like,
I agree.
Responsibility and own it, man. But don't sit there and try to mansplain to me why you thought that Nick Anderson was a better matchup there than
one of your best pitchers who's dealing. Yeah, no, I get it. It's
a guy who's won a Cy Young. This isn't some pitcher. Cy Young.
It's not like it's your 4th or 5th starter who you're lucky to get 6 innings out of. It's literally a former Cy Young Award winner who you can ride 9 innings if you have to.
I never thought I would be triggered by a Rays performance. A Rays game.
Who knew Tampa? Right? Who knew Tampa could get to you like this, man?
Right. Yeah, man. I just because I hate that, man. Because to me, it just feels cheap. It just feels like you're robbing someone.
No, I get it.
Moment, and just I hate it.
I get it.
I hate it. So yeah, Kevin Cash, man. I almost chose him for be my worst human of the week, man. But no, I'll give him a break. There's somebody else that I think deserves that.
Oh, God.
No, he's. Look, I think he'll survive it. I think he's a good enough manager where I think it won't something that'll stain him completely. Obviously, he's not going to lose his job. Obviously, he's lucky that he manages in Tampa and not New York, because I think in New York he absolutely would have lost his job, because like a New York fan's not going to pull up with that. Like, you really, Nick Anderson, really? This is what you're doing for me in Game 6 of the World Series? I got him on 72 pitches.
In Tampa, you're happy to be in Game 6 of the World Series. In New York, you're expected to do that. That's the difference.
So Kevin Cash, man. All right, man. So let's transition to the most important, most consequential election of our lifetime.
Isn't every election the most consequential election of our lifetime?
Was it 2016,
but for real,
2008?
But for real, though, like this, it kind of is.
Well, you could say that
you don't think
election. So? You could say that about every election.
Yeah, I think you and I are. I think we're both jaded by the 2-party system, and I think we're both jaded by the establishment. I think we're both jaded by promises of each party not coming through, more specifically the Democratic Party, because you and I lean left. But I really do think that if we do have a Donald Trump presidency for another 4 years, it can do some serious damage to the country. With the simple fact that we're still in the middle of a pandemic that he's not taking seriously. He has fascist tendencies that, the Republican Party just enables, not doing anything about it. And Democrats don't have the willpower or guts to stop any of the shit that he's doing. So to me, trust me, I'm the first person to go to the fucking booth and write in Bernie Sanders if I wanted to. I'm going to be voting Biden just for the simple fact that, to me, it's more than that. I'm taking the more pragmatic approach this time around, and I'm not happy about it. And I'm not going to go to the booth like waving a Biden Kamala Harris.
No, you're holding your nose. You're holding your nose doing it.
Yeah. I mean, that's just the approach I'm taking. I really do believe that Trump is a legit threat to our democracy. I know that sounds very hyperbolic to some people, but that's where I'm at personally.
Yeah, look, I can't argue with you. Look, I cannot vote for Trump, obviously. So that never was an option, obviously. So then it becomes, are you voting for Joe Biden? Are you voting for third party, right? And I still believe that, if you vote for a third party candidate that's not the actual realistically a third party candidate that can actually win, I think it's a wasted vote. Just like if you're writing in a candidate, it's a wasted vote. So last cycle, I voted for Hillary. I held my nose. I probably puked after I did it, but I voted for Hillary. Same today. I'll vote tomorrow. I'll send my ballot in. And, I'm holding my nose the whole time with Joe Biden. It's the same thing. It's just the lesser of two evils. I'm not even so much wrapped up in the choices because it is who it is, obviously, right? You're going to choose either to vote for Trump or vote for Biden. Obviously, if you lean left in any sort of, basically, if you're a liberal, anywhere from the spectrum of centrist liberal to progressive, you're going to most likely vote for Biden in some way, shape, or form. Although I wouldn't count on progressives falling in line as much as you may think, just because I don't think Biden has been welcoming to progressives, but we'll get into that.
No, he hasn't. He hasn't at all.
But what I'm saying is, like, obviously anybody that basically even slightly shares our views are going to most likely vote for Biden, right? And if you're going to be, and if you're basically anywhere in the conservative mindset, you're going to vote for Trump, right? Yeah, it is what it is, man. I don't even look at it, the candidates, man. I'm just so sick and tired of the lesser of two evils. The lesser of two evils kind of landscape that our political system has given us, right? And I feel like, and people don't pay enough attention to that, right? Because they always say, oh, well, it's always been this way, so what else is new? And like, no, that's the problem. It's always been this way to an extent. Obviously, obviously, I don't think 2008 was a lesser of two evils. In hindsight, it was, but I don't think at the moment and at the time it wasn't a lesser of two evils. I think it was a clear choice, Obama or McCain, right?
And I think that's why we're so mad at Obama, because we didn't feel like that's what it was.
Right. Obviously, we could go back to a lot of elections throughout the history, and there weren't a lot of lesser of two evils situations, right? I think over the last 30, 40 years, I think it's been like that, though. I think it's been where it's like, what are you going to vote for? Bird shit or dog shit? Which one? You know what I mean? And it's like, they're both shit at the end of the day. And that's like, people lose sight of that. It's like, no, they're both shit at the end of the day. It's like, if you get faced with a scenario, would you rather step on shit on your first day of work or get bird shit on? It's like, it's just like, it depends on your perspective. Like, one's easier to clean off than the other. It depends, right? But at the end of the day, you're still voting for shit. You're still in a shitty situation one way or another. So
you are. I do think there is a difference between the two parties, though. I think there are both sides arguments you can tout. I think in foreign policy, it's a lot of the same, even though I do think there are some types of differences. But there's only one side of the aisle that's really suppressing black voices this election. There's only one side of the aisle that's gerrymandering. There's only one side of the aisle that is consistently trying to silence voices over the Black Lives Matter movement. There's only one side of the aisle that tries to restrict LGBTQ rights. There's only one side of the aisle that's trying to rig it. Like, there's just so many things that I feel the Republican Party is for that I am so adamantly against. That, like, I look at the Democratic Party, and yes, they say they're for the middle class worker, but they kind of just virtue signal. They say they're for the black community, and that's
my problem.
They end up virtue signaling, and I understand that. But at the same time, if you are a gay man or a queer woman, like, gay marriage was passed because of the Democratic Party. There are certain things that do end up helping these minorities and their communities because of the Democratic Party. Anything that gets done based on our behalf has been because of the Democratic Party. Now, you and I can make the argument that it's not enough and we would like to go way further. But at the same time, I can't sit back and just be like, well, they do nothing. And they do nothing when it's more like, no, they are trying to kill us, and they are just kind of like taking us for granted, sort of say. The Democratic Party is a bad boyfriend or girlfriend, and and the Republican Party is an abusive boyfriend or abusive girlfriend. That's how I look at it.
Right. And all amazing points, and I agree with you. And I know that people get mad at me because when I start being critical and overly critical, right, they always say like, oh, well, you've lost sight of like, oh, well, at least the Democrats don't do this, or at least the Democrats don't do that. And yes, I know that. Yeah. But that's a very low bar. Like, oh, the Democrats virtue signal. Oh, the Democrats don't try to quell, Black Lives Matter. They care about Black Lives Matter. So they say, yeah, You care about a movement. You care about a slogan.
And we'll take a knee at Dashiki on and then
right. Just because the Democrats want to put on, if you really cared about Black Lives Matter, help communities like Flint, help communities like Camden, help communities, and don't just virtue signal. Don't just don't just show up every 4 years. Say this is the most consequential election and this is about you and blah blah blah, and then abandon these communities as soon as you can. Like that's. But again, that's what the Democratic Party do. I guess for me, it's more egregious. I'm more angered about the Democratic Party because it's just so egregious, right? Like I already know the Republican Party doesn't give a shit about me. I already know that. Like I know that. But as a person that wants to be in the fold of the Democratic Party, a party that's supposed to be a party that is for liberals, right? And progressives, right? I look at the actions and I'm like, really? That doesn't match up with the things that you say are important. It doesn't match up with the things. And I feel like, I think too many times in politics, man, we just, again, it's that lesser of two evils argument where it's like, we just settle for these like very, I know they're bad, but at least they're not these guys. Yeah. Right. And it's like, we need to stop that. We need to stop that because it's always going to be another cycle of that. Right. Where it's like, hey, I know Josh is not any good, but at least he's not, a conservative who's trying to take your whatever. Right. Or he's not this guy or he's not that guy. Like eventually people have to smart enough to say no. We can't always just keep choosing that lesser of two evils, or just settling for like the bad boyfriend as opposed to the boyfriend that beats me up.
And I think we're there. I think, pragmatically, I think you and I look at this election and yes, we're holding our nose and we're voting for Biden. But I do think, our generation especially looks at this election and was like, we're going to vote for Biden. But on day one, if he gets in, we're going to hold his feet to the fire. And I think we finally have people in Congress and we have people in the House of Representatives who are going to do that. I think for the first time in a long time, I trust like these 4 women on my shirt. I trust a lot of people in the Democratic Party coming in, a lot of newer people, more progressives, and it's going to take time. That's the unfortunate thing is that we're going to have to, elect these people on a local level, on a state level, get them into positions where they can actually make change. But in the meantime, we have to hold water. We can't just, we have to elect people who we can at least compromise and who we can move left. Because if we as a base force the Democratic Party to move left, they're going to have no other choice but to move left. The unfortunate part is that the Democratic Party, and this is what makes Republicans better at politics in my mind than Democrats, Republicans listen to their base where Democrats don't listen to their base and they try to get Republicans. That has to change. And we have to let them know that has to change.
Well, here's the thing, right? So, look, let's get away from Biden and Trump. Obviously, the choice is clear. We know that, obviously, right? Unless you're just a Trump sycophant or a person that believes in Trump's lies, whatever, right? The choice is clear. Do you think Biden is a guy that you can move? Because I don't think he can. I mean, I think in his rhetoric, I think I think you see a guy. See, I actually think it's easier to move someone like Hillary Clinton because she has no real political ideology. She's just a shapeshifter. She's just somebody that is going to be conveniently placed for whatever gets her votes, right? So I actually think in a lot of ways, Hillary was easier to actually kind of be someone that you could push to the left as opposed to Biden. I mean, this guy is still in the midst of a pandemic saying that he would repeal a bill for Medicare for all. Like literally in the midst of a global pandemic saying I would repeal a Medicare for all bill. Like, I think leftists have this delusion that like, oh, as soon as Biden gets in the office, we're going to strong arm him and we're going to tell him who's boss and progressives are going to push him to the left. And I just don't see that. If anything, I think he's going to try to move center on a lot of things. But
we have a better chance of moving him. And I think that's the reason why we're optimistic. I don't know. I mean, like what cabinet position he's going to give Bernie? You got to give Bernie a cabinet.
He's not giving Bernie anything. And
I think he might be.
Here's my biggest issue, right? With the strategy that if Biden wins, we'll be able to move him, right? Obviously, I agree with you. If Trump wins, we're not moving him on anything because we just don't see eye to eye, right? On anything, right? So I already know that.
Yeah.
I'm just specifically dealing with Biden. Here's the thing about that, right? When Biden won the nomination, and we can, obviously this is another podcast for another day, how he won the nomination and the bullshit that surrounded that, right? Mm. When he won the nomination, I, myself, and a lot of other progressives and leftists were like, if you're Bernie, you hold out. You don't fall in line. And a lot of people fell in line. All right, well, I guess it's Biden, because again, it was that, we just got to defeat Trump. No, that's still the narrative. You have to defeat Trump, but you also have to understand the stakes, right? Like, politics is a drug game. I've always said it. It's a drug game. It's like, what can you do for me? And what can I do for you? It's a transactional relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that what Bernie didn't understand was like, I have a lot of power right now. I have a lot of power. So no, I'm not just going to fall in line. Screw you. You're going to hate me. You're going to blame it on me. If Biden loses, you're going to blame me anyway. So no, I'm not going to just fall in line. I'm going to stay in this race as long as I can. And if Joe Biden is not talking right, if he's not saying the shit that I want to hear, I'll stay until June, July. Hell, I'll stay into August if I don't give a shit. I'll stay in convention night. I'll be in there working the rooms. Right. And obviously that probably wasn't going to be the case. But I think that you had to have had a stronger, a more united front in that regard to say, no, Joe Biden, you may have clinched the nomination, or you at least may have clinched the ability to clinch the nomination. But we're not just going to fall in line. We're not just going to say, okay, we bow to the master and just let you just completely dictate the platform. No, this is what we want. This is what our expectations. If you're not talking right, I'll make it very impossible for you to win any progressives over. And they didn't do that. They just kind of all fell in line and was like, all right, well.
The country's on fire right now, basically.
Right, and I get that.
Desperation.
Josh, I get that. I don't want it. I don't want anybody to listen to this podcast and say, oh, Manny's a Trump apologist, or he's going to vote for Trump. I fucking know that orange piece of shit is terrible. I get it. Absolutely. Duly noted. Get it, right? I am speaking from a progressive perspective. We know Trump is shit. I wouldn't vote for Trump if my life depended on it. That being said, I have a higher expectation and I hold my politicians to a higher standard, as you do. And my problem is we cannot fall for the Trump is this existential threat narrative, right? Because then you kind of lose sight of all of the other important things that when it comes to politics, right? Like holding politicians' feet to the fire, being in a situation where to leverage your vote. Like, a vote is a powerful thing, right? You have to leverage that. Like, you can't just fall in line for a politician when he's not offering you anything of substance, right? Like I would make the case that for me as a leftist, Joe Biden has not offered me anything besides he's not Trump. Like, all Joe Biden's message is if you want a president that's not going to fucking toilet tweet at 3 a.m. in the morning, vote for me. And that's like, okay, that's great, but that's not everything, right? Like, that's not what I'm looking for in my politician. Like, that's low fucking hanging fruit. Like, I don't care. Great. Wonderful. You're not going to rage tweet at 3 a.m. That shouldn't be the bar. Like that. And I get it. The country's on fire right now. Right. Shit is going to hell. 2020 is the worst year ever. Like, I get all that. But I think that if we start falling under that, just Trump is bad and we just got to vote him out, I think you start losing sight of all of these things. And reality is going to hit you because, again, let's say Biden wins on Tuesday, right? And he gets elected and he gets inaugurated, right? That high of not having Trump is going to last for a little while, 6 months. And then eventually you can't blame Trump anymore for all the fucked up shit that's happening. Right. You can't blame Trump anymore for, the divisiveness in the country. You can't blame Trump anymore for the racism that still exists because, the media likes to pretend like America was just this happy place, the 1950s, America, good times, Brady Bunch, you know what I mean? And like racism only started, November 10th of 2016. Like, no, this shit is still, has been going on since the beginning of time, the beginning of America, right? So, like, I think there'll be a high for 6 months, and then eventually people will wake up and be like, oh, shit, we can't blame Trump anymore for all the fucked up shit that's still going on.
But who are those people, though? Because I feel like, and maybe this is just anecdotally, and the people that we speak to and the people in my circle, I think we're a little more awake in the sense that everybody knows that Biden's not the perfect candidate. I don't know anybody specifically who's enthusiastic in voting for him. I mean, and that includes, like, the older generation that I do know. And I admit that it is anecdotal, but I'm sure polls bear that out. I haven't seen any polls about enthusiasm.
White, college educated.
Yeah. I'm willing to bet that, like, that poll that says, are you enthusiastic about your candidate? I'm very confident that Biden enthusiasm is low. I don't think people are expecting him to deliver on promises like Bernie would deliver on Medicare for all or the Green New Deal. I just think people expect him to kind of just bring some stability to the White House, and then we go from there. And I think a lot of people have a certain grasp on what they want. I think Medicare for all has become very popular. I think socialized medicine has become a mainstream thing as much as
things that he's saying he will veto. Right.
Right.
So then I guess my question is,
trust me. I understand what you're saying. It's like he's going to get in, and everything we want, nothing's going to happen. It's going to be more of the same. I totally get that. But like I said, we have a new generation of people, of voters who are going to protest these things. We're going to hold feet to the fire. Obama was against gay marriage when he first took office in 2008, and look what happened. Because the tide turned. The tide of society just turned. It happened. Sometimes politicians can't help but to change. And I do get your point with Hillary Clinton. She's more of a shapeshifter. But you know what? Biden was a part of that administration with Obama too. Biden was also in Obama's ear apparently about gay marriage as well. I'm not saying he's going to, all of a sudden fold on Medicare for all, but I could see him making some concession on something like the Green New Deal, on something like maybe Medicare for all, on these programs that we tout, maybe these entitlement program, or whatever lefty agenda that we want. You get what I'm saying? He has to know that there is a base that's going to hold him accountable. And there are people in Congress and the House of Representatives are going to hold him accountable too, because you have your Bernie Sanders who said he's already going to primary candidates who are not going with our agenda. You have the squad that's going to do the same thing. They're going to raise hell. They're not afraid to go against the Democratic Party. Pelosi's getting old. Schumer's getting old. So, I do think these things take time, though. I think a lot of people expect that once the election happens, like, oh, this is what I want. You're going to hear me out and you're going to do what I want, or that's it. And that's not how politics works. That's not how it works pragmatically. These things take time. And I think we have to continue to push the idea of Medicare for all and the Green New Deal. It has to become normalized. When it becomes normalized and accepted, then the politicians have no other choice but to go through with it. It reminds me of like gay marriage, like Black Lives Matter, for instance. 4 years ago, we were in the minority. I was in Black Lives Matter protests in 2015, 2016. All my friends thought I was fucking psycho for going to Times Square. They thought I was some radical leftist because I'm fighting for Black lives. And now all of a sudden, if you don't like Black Lives Matter, if you're not part of the movement, people are looking at you funny because it's like, oh, duh. We've moved that conversation where it's normalized, and now we can have police reform in certain neighborhoods. We can have police reform in local levels. Not everything's done federally. You know what I mean? It's just changing the conversation of the country. And unfortunately, that just takes time. And I think our country realizes that, yes, Biden's not the perfect candidate. Biden's not going to do a lot of things we don't want to do, but at least our conversation can be normalized around him. Whereas if it's Trump, I mean, obviously I'm not like trying to make my case towards you, but that's why I have hope. In the sense where I do think that, it would not surprise me if he concedes on certain things, depending on how much hell the squad raises, how much Bernie raises, Bowman raises. I mean, you have a bunch of new candidates, a bunch of new House of Representatives who just, they hear us and they represent us. And, it's going to take time, but I don't think I'm as pessimistic as you are when it comes to Biden. No,
and look, I like Joe Biden. I think personally, I like Joe Biden. I think he's a good principled guy. Like I'm not trying to make Joe. Biden Hitler, right? I'm not trying to make Joe Biden out to be the worst person ever, right? The worst human being on earth. No, I have concerns, and you're more hopeful than I am. I'm more cynical and less optimistic than you are.
We're never on the same page at the same time ever. No, one of us is always pessimistic, and the other one's always off. We're never at the same time. You ever notice that?
This is why we're perfect for each other. But, you could get to you motivated me, man. You talked me a little bit off the ledge a little bit when it came. Because everything that you're saying, man, your lips to God's ears, bro. Like I'm hoping, I'm praying that that's the case, man. I'm looking at the rhetoric. I'm looking at the record. I'm looking at the shit that he's saying as he's currently running and campaigning. Like the shit that blows my mind is like, the thing that blows my mind completely, right, is that like this man during a pandemic has said, I will veto Medicare for all.
It's unethical. Like it's disgusting. No, I agree with you. But the thing is, it's like the conversation, and it goes back to the conversation we have in this country. The conversation with Medicare for all, it's like, oh, that's socialism. Socialism's bad, without people even know what the hell socialism is and what Medicare for all is. Right. So he's finger to the wind. This is what the tide's saying, so I'm going with it, regardless of what he believes. That's really what it is. So if we can change that conversation around, not just Medicare for all, but the word socialism too, by the way. And this is me. I'm not a socialist. I do believe in like socialized medicine and social programs. But if we can change the conversation where people can understand what the hell that is, then when he's forced with talking about Medicare for all, we go like, yo, you're full of shit. There's not enough of us going like, yo, you were full of shit. There's a small minority of us. It's a bigger base of the Democratic Party. And that base is slowly growing. The problem is that growth takes time.
Right. And I get it. And again, it's you're more optimistic. I'm pessimistic in that regard. So we'll see, man. I hope so, man. I'm praying. I'm hoping. I will do everything that's in my part and our part here with the show to move the conversation forward to in our little corners of the world to pressure our government as much as we can. I get it. And it's going to take time. And I'm not saying that had Bernie won the ticket and everything would have been fixed in day one. Obviously he would have faced a hellish, resistance from both parties really, had Bernie won. So I get that. I understand that. I'm just someone that I just don't want people to lose sight of everything is just going to be so much better when Trump is gone. And I think that because to me, that's a very ignorant view because that's not accepting that Trump was a manifestation of a lot of things that were going on in this country under the surface that a lot of people didn't pay attention to. Right. It's like the thing of people act like every Trump voter is a racist. No, I don't. I used to think that way too. Like back in the day, like 2016, I used to think, oh, all these people are racist. And then I actually sat down with a Trump voter and I asked him, I'm like, yo, a guy I work with, I'm like, why would you vote for Donald Trump? And we had a long conversation about it. And he's like, I voted for Donald Trump, not because I know Donald Trump is a racist piece of shit. His exact words, I get it. I don't like him. I wouldn't want Donald Trump in my household. I wouldn't want him in my neighborhood. I wouldn't want to share a job with him. But I'm so tired of the system. I'm tired of it. And a lot of people are just fed up, tired of the system, tired of the same old politicians that are going to that say they're going to do this and they promise this and they don't do any of it. And that's on both sides. And this is a conservative. This is a Republican guy.
But where's he at now? Where's he at now? Yeah.
He's still Trump, but he's wavering. He's like, I like Joe Biden. He didn't like Hillary. He didn't like Hillary. He didn't like
no one liked Hillary.
No one did, obviously, right? But he didn't like Hillary. He didn't like the Clintons. He's like, he likes Joe. He's still like, Joe's agenda on certain things. But no, he said, the only reason I voted for Trump was because I wanted to shake up the system. I felt like Trump would come in and just piss people off to the point where something would change.
Well, it's shaken
obviously
up.
He was fucking wrong, obviously.
But in a way, he's right, though. It has been shaken up in some sort of way. I mean, look at our country. Look at what it's become. Look what our government's become. Right. I mean, and that's my thing. I do believe there are people who voted that way, but I think those people who voted for him to shake up the system, I think the people who voted for him because he's a businessman, I think at this point in time, if they really voted for him for those reasons, they're looking at him funny now, like, oh no, I was wrong. Like,
right. And there are some people that, if you look at the polls,
yes, and there are 1,000% people that way. But I'm always skeptical of someone who says that and then is still confused on whether to vote for him or still going to vote for him, because to me it's like, well, that's not the reason why you voted for him. Then go back to the drawing book and come back with the real reason why you voted for him. That's how I feel, at least, because if you voted for him to change up the system, look at where our country's at. Like, I understand that there are people who voted for him for those reasons. And in my opinion, those people, if you voted for him to shake up the system, if you voted for him because you think he's a good businessman, I think by 2020, you look back on that vote and you're like, you know what? I thought this was true. It's not true. I'm not voting for him this time. But there are people who say that they voted for him that reason, and they're still looking at him like, oh, maybe I'll vote for him, or like, I'm going to vote for him. To me, that's not the reason why you vote for him.
Right.
There's just no possible way. And I think there's more of those people than there are people who kind of like regret voting for him. Not saying there aren't people who do. I personally know people who do regret voting for him.
Yeah, and I do too. Yeah.
But one of them. Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's just kind of like there's like this mask that a lot of people put up in this country. We know that there are people who are flying a Trump flag and wearing the MAGA hats who are racist and overtly racist.
Absolutely.
But there's also
I don't want to sit there and say
it's almost like that Martin Luther King Jr. quote where he's like the white moderate quote where he's like, I don't want to butcher it, but basically
I know what you're saying. Yep.
Yeah. So and that's what bothers me, where it's like you have these people who like say they wanted to shake up the system, say they voted him because he's a businessman, XYZ. All that has been proven to be false. And yet Here you are still voting for him. What do you expect me to believe from you now? Like, what am I supposed to think of you at this point? Right. Because
absolutely.
all of that has been proven patently false. So now what? Now what are you going to tell me? Hillary's not an excuse in 2020. And to me, it's almost disheartening because it's like, I can I know how to defeat a racist. I know how to defeat a bigot. I know how to have conversations with these people. It's almost like I don't know what to do with you. And I feel like that's where our country gets lost, because I feel like they're the people who really swing the tide of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you make an excellent point, man. Absolutely. And I don't know. I just hate when we want to make absolute statements like, oh, every Trump voter is a racist.
Yeah, they're not.
And every Biden voter is a socialist, communist, loving. Of course not.
Right.
No absolutes in either.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, let's just be careful about setting the bar so low to the point, like, because you got to think about it. If Joe Biden wins, right, and we'll get into our predictions and we think we're going to if Joe Biden wins on Tuesday, he has done the least of any candidate in history to fucking win an election. Like, it literally,
so this was Joe Biden's campaign.
Yep. Exactly, right? If you guys can see, he's laying down on a couch, like, absolutely in the basement, like, absolutely, like, he's done nothing. Like, his entire message is, I'm not Trump.
I'm not Trump.
I'm a candidate that's just gonna, like, make you feel good about yourself and not, like, shake your head at a tweet when you wake up in the morning.
Right.
Vote for me, right? And to some people that's enough. And yeah, great, sure, have at it. I would just say that, yeah, if that's enough for you as your presidential candidate, then I have a problem with that, because I think there should be more. And look, again, your lips to God's ears. Hopefully he gets in there and we're able to push him to the left on a lot of different issues. That's the goal. That's my hope. Whether that happens or not, we'll see. So yeah, man, I have no hope. That's the main crux of this discussion. Right. I have no hope. You seem to have a little bit more hope than I do. I have none.
Well, I have hope if he wins. But there's also, and something I kind of want to talk about too, is like, there's going to be backlash if he wins too, because it's not like there's going to be like 60 million people or however many people who voted for Trump who are going to be angry. That's something that I think it depends. I mean, look, you're always going to have these wackadoos that think like anything is rigged. Like Trump could, like, literally Biden can win like every state in the country, and people will say, well, like, it was rigged, right? So obviously you can't pay attention to those folks. I think it depends on how close this election is. So look, I will get into our predictions, but I think if Biden wins, I think it's big. I think if Trump wins, it's narrow. Agreed.
So I don't see it being chaos if Biden wins by like an enormous amount, like, because I think the polls pretty much say that. So I think, and again, you're always going to have those wackadoos, right? You're always going to have those idiots that are going to be like, I can't believe that he won 500. I mean, like, whatever, right? I think that there's different scenarios where you could see Biden winning, but I think the most likely is a comfortable electoral college and popular vote wins. I think if it was a situation where, like, and I saw one map from Steve Kornacki on MSNBC where, like, if all of the swing states are wrong, but like one, and then you know how Nebraska has like that 2 congressional district, that weird layout where we're literally like, so basically the breakdown goes 270 to 268 Biden. I think you would have some shit there. I think people would fucking, like, Trump voters would lose their fucking mind if, like, Joe Biden somehow lost every swing state, but the 2 congressional districts in Nebraska flipped everything and awarded, the presidency to Joe Biden. I think you would have it there. I think we might see some shit if Trump gets reelected, though, on the opposite end, though. I think either. I think there's going to be some unrest on both sides. Yeah, I think there will be some unrest. I think people are making too. I don't think you'll see armed militias on the street with masks killing people. I don't know, man. Honestly, I can't say. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what's going to happen on Tuesday. Like, as I sit here right now, 9:37 on the West Coast, I don't know what to tell you. For all we know, all hell can break loose on Tuesday night and Wednesday night or whatever, however long this decision goes, depending if this is something where the results don't come in right away. I just don't know. I don't know. I don't want to even speculate because I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
I think I don't know, man. I don't know. I think if Biden wins big, I don't think there will be as much anger just because it's hard to argue if he wins 440 something electoral college. Like, what are you protesting? the number of, like, I think if it's a close race throughout, like, I think if it's like some Bush v. Gore shit, like throughout the night, I think, I think that's where you'll see.
But I mean, but that's the thing, like with mail-in ballots, Pennsylvania, for instance, like we're not going to know what Pennsylvania is until, I mean, they're not even starting counting the mail-in ballots till Wednesday. So Trump tomorrow, or this is going to come out on Monday. So like you'll see Tuesday, Trump's going to have a lead in Pennsylvania on election night. It just is what it is. And that lead's going to slowly decrease because of the mail-in voting, and like Democrats are just more likely to vote through mail. That's just what it is.
Right.
So that's going to form a narrative for Trump. Like, I won Pennsylvania, but then the Democrats and people will believe that. And to me, liberals will go out and protest. Conservatives will go out armed and protest. And the only reason why conservatives and things like that don't get out of hand is because the police pretty much are on their side. Let's just be fucking honest. Like they're down with the protests.
No secret. Like yeah.
But like for someone, I'm someone, and we can get into, this is a whole nother topic of discussion. I don't like guns. And I could feel like, there are people who have been preparing for this moment their whole life where I'm going to use my Second Amendment rights because the government can be tyrannical, and these damn liberals are going to try to take our guns and over. And I think a lot of people, I think there can be some people who will take this moment in time, especially if Trump provokes them to do something. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I could see it happening. That situation scares me more from like a protest standpoint, like who would do more damage. That situation scares me more just because there's like weaponry involved. If it makes sense.
Yeah. No, I totally get what you're saying. And like I said, bro, like we don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to speculate this shit. I don't even feel comfortable speculating this shit because it's just, I don't even want to think about it. But yeah, man, I don't know. I think election night will be interesting. So obviously we'll get into our predictions. So the last poll I checked out was the NBC poll, which was released during, the football game tonight.
Yes.
He had a 10-point lead national, but I always tell people, even folks that, like, it's funny, like in my life, people come to me for political advice, like, which is like an honor, and like, damn, you come to me of all people to give you like political insight. But like, I always tell people, don't pay attention to the national polls. You gotta basically, the elections are decided 5, 6, 7 states are basically deciding the election.
Yep.
From a electoral college standpoint. So you gotta look at the states, right? And well, here's the one thing, right? So I think the polls are off again. I just think the Trump voter is very badly misrepresented in these polls, man. Like, and it's not the fault of the pollsters. Like, I think there's a thing where Trump voters don't want to admit, the folks that we just talked about, right? The folks that, I voted for Trump to shake up the system. I think that pollster calls them and say, "Hey, what are you going to vote for?" I think they say,
right. I agree.
But secretly,
Jurgensen, or something
right,
like that.
Right. But at the end of the day, they're just not going to say they're going to vote for Trump. There is a lot of that. So I think that the Trump voter is very underrepresented when it comes to these polls. So I don't think you can take these polls seriously. I think we're going to have another close. I think, looking at the math, I think Trump wins in a squeaker. I say if Trump, the only way Trump can win is in a squeaker. Like, there's no real.
I think you're calling it. I was like, oh shit, Manny!
Bro, I'll call it right now. I think Trump's going to win. You
do?
Yeah. I think Trump will win because I think the polls are just massively off. I don't think, because at these numbers, like, this is Obama 08 level of like enthusiasm and energy towards Biden. And I just don't see, I see it, but I don't believe it type of energy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't see, here's the thing, right?
I'm different than you on this one.
Here's the thing. And again, I'm hoping Biden wins. Let me put that out there. I'm not saying I'm hoping Trump wins. No.
Yeah.
I'm just saying what I think. I think the election is going to come down to Pennsylvania and Florida. I think pretty much, I think Trump is going to lose Wisconsin.
Yeah,
I don't know. See, that's the thing. I don't know because again, these polls, I just think that they're so underrepresented right now. Because
I listen. There's a huge spike in coronavirus cases in Wisconsin right now.
Yeah,
Wisconsin typically does go blue. I think a lot of people were like Biden's up on average according to Real Clear Politics. He's up 6.5. So even if you take like the margin of error, like 3 to 4 points, he still wins. I think he takes Wisconsin pretty comfortably.
Here's the thing, right? Everything that you said is true, right? But the fact that lead is basically 3, I mean, again, margin for error, take 2 or 3 points off. Basically a 3-point game.
It's absurd. I get what you're saying.
You know what I mean? It's like, that's what gives me, like, everything that you just said right now about Wisconsin, he should be blowing out. Like, Biden should have a 14-point lead in Wisconsin. Like, easily, right?
Yes.
He doesn't. That's what gives me pause. You know what I mean? Like, everything that you just said about Ohio, Biden should have like a 14-point lead in Ohio, right? And
he's down. Trump's up in Ohio.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah, Trump's going to win Ohio.
I think Trump's going to win Ohio.
Yeah, me too.
I think Trump's going to win Florida. I just don't. The ones that I know that the Democrats got a hard on for Georgia and Texas. Like there's
not happening. They're losing Texas by at least 6-7 points. And the polls have it at an average like Republicans up 1 toss up. It's fucking Texas, people.
I think Texas. I think at best Texas will be purple 2024. I don't think they're for it to be right now.
The Democrats won't win an election in Texas until at least 2028, 2032.
I think 2024 is when you'll start seeing. At the very least, saying it'll lean red as opposed to be staunch red.
Yeah, the dream of winning.
I don't buy the Texas thing. I don't buy it. I think at the end of the day, I think Trump wins Texas. I don't want to say comfortably, but I think he wins it pretty handily. Georgia, again, I don't buy it.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to really convince me that Trump is going to lose Georgia. I just don't see it. I think if Biden wins Georgia and if Biden even loses Texas by 2 points, then that will tell you everything you need to know about the night. That Biden's going to win. He's going to cruise to victory. Right?
So I filled out this interactive map and I did like what I think is not so much worst case scenario, but this is like my not conservative ideology, but like if I think Biden performs at his worst, and I still have him winning 289, 247. I have Trump taking Florida, I have Trump taking Ohio, and I have Trump taking Texas. But I do have Biden winning Pennsylvania. And the reason why I say that is that and this is going by polling. I know polling's been off last election. I understand where you're coming from with that, but he's up 4.3. I mean, it has massively swung in his direction, for the past few months. You've got to believe that, there are people who are voting early, and often voter turnout has been huge in the beginning, early voting. And I know that, on election day, it's going to swing towards Trump a little more, but voter turnout has been really big, man. And
it has.
When voter turnout is big, that goes to Democrats, period. Yeah. So just those two signals for me lead me to believe that he's going to take Pennsylvania, which is the key state. That's the only state I'm watching. Because if he wins Pennsylvania, it's over. Trump can win whatever. It's over. I'm giving Trump.
I think if he wins Pennsylvania and Florida. Oh, and Arizona is the big state. And Arizona is the other big state to watch.
He'll win Arizona. You think
Biden's going to win Arizona?
Cindy McCain's campaigning for Biden down there. I think Biden wins Arizona. I got Trump winning North Carolina, which is another toss-up.
Really? You think Arizona's going to go? Arizona's going to go Biden?
Yes, I do.
I don't see it. I think I put Arizona in the Texas category. I think the demographics is changing. I think it's really changing. I think that by 2024, I think the Democrats will definitely be competitive in Arizona and in Texas. More so Arizona than I would say Texas. I think Trump wins Texas. I think he squeaks out. I think Trump wins Arizona. I think he squeaks it out like a point or two. I think he barely wins Arizona, but I think I think Arizona. I don't think Arizona's as much as at play.
So I just gave Trump Arizona in that map I told you about, and Biden still wins 278 to 258. So what I'm saying basically is I've given Trump the swing state of Florida, the swing state of North Carolina, the swing state of Ohio, and the swing state of Arizona. I gave Biden Nevada, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. To me, it comes out. It's Pennsylvania's going to decide the election.
I agree. So you think Biden will win most of the Midwest outside of Ohio, right?
Yeah, I think Biden's going to win Michigan. I think he's going to kill it in Michigan. Michigan is it's turned it into a very progressive state, low key. I don't know if you remember, but in 2016 it went to Bernie. Yeah. Bernie kills it there, and you know, like I said, I think progressives are thinking more pragmatically this election as opposed to 2016, where I think you have a lot of people who might have voted for Bernie or wrote in Bernie or just didn't, who sat out, who I think are going to vote this time around. I just think he wins that area. Minnesota, same thing. Michigan, Wisconsin, I think all go to Biden. So for me, the only logical way that Trump can actually win this thing is taking Pennsylvania, if I'm generous, and give him Florida and Arizona and North Carolina and Ohio on top of that. So,
yeah, I see. Again, hoping to God your prediction is right. I don't know, man. The polls give me pause. Just because
it's up in the polls. I get what you're saying. I understand that, but like it's not the same, man. 2016 it was closer. It was closer than it is now. Biden has it was closer.
Gap. It was closer than this.
Way bigger gap.
I will definitely give you that. It was still closer. I don't know, man. It's just like everything that's going on, and that these swing states are still even debatable. Like even to the point where it's like, damn, you could legitimately make a case that Trump could possibly still win Michigan. Like you could legitimately make the case that Trump could possibly win Arizona. Like you could legitimately make the case, you know, Pennsylvania and Florida, right? Like,
and Iowa's in play too now. I'm giving that to Trump too, just so you know. Iowa's a swing state. I'm giving Iowa to Trump.
I don't. There's some states that I'm just not buying.
Yeah.
I'm not buying.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like the toss-ups, like I'm giving that to Trump. Like the ones that we're not quote unquote buying: Texas, Georgia, Iowa, Arizona. Like even if you give all those to Trump, Biden still wins if he takes them.
Yeah. Look. The math is. That's why I said. If Trump wins, it's a fucking squeaker. Like he wins on a last second bucket, right? Like that's like to use a sports analogy for my non-political friends, right? Like it's going to be a squeaker. Like there's no way, just looking at the math, right? Like you just have to look at the math. There's no way that Trump's going to win any kind of a real big advantage. He's shot in the popular poll, right? So that's not even, we don't even have to talk about that. Biden's going to win over 50% on the popular vote. I just think, I don't know, man. I think, I'm with you. I think Pennsylvania decides the election. I think Trump is a little bit more competitive in the Midwest than I think you're giving him credit for.
Okay.
I don't know. I just, again, it's that pessimistic fear of me. It's like, I get it.
I think voter.
I'd rather be wrong and say Trump's going to win than if like on Tuesday night, everything turns out the way it's supposed to. Then it's like, oh, okay, great.
I'll give you three things that Democrats have going for them. One, it's 4 years later, 14-year-olds are now 18-year-olds, 15-year-olds are 19-year-olds. That generation belongs to us.
Yes.
Period. They're more liberal, and they want to vote this dude out of office because they probably hate him as much as we do.
Right.
You did mention in the beginning of this show that there are a lot of people who kind of like, yeah, not down with Trump this time around. I do believe that, you know, people like your coworker, there are people who might put up that front saying I voted for him because he's a businessman and because blah, blah, blah. And they might still vote for him. But there are people, like you mentioned, who are like, no, I made a mistake. I made a mistake. I'm turning this around. We're turning this vote around. Yeah. And I do think that as well. And then
that
also
was fun, but I'm not doing this anymore. Like,
yeah. And then also, again, high voter turnout. When there's high voter turnout, Democrats win, period. There are more of us. Period. It just is what it is. It's just getting people out to vote. And it seems like people are more inspired to vote this time around. And it's not because of Joe Biden. It's not because Biden inspires anybody. I just think that Trump is that despised. I think it's, and that's just me. So my worst case scenario was that Biden wins. I think it was 289 that I had. I kind of messed with the map, but it wouldn't surprise me if he blew him out. I mean, he's up, like I said, he's up in Florida. Like if it goes by the polls right now, like I'll just do it quickly. Like basically, if Biden wins every place that he's at in the polls, just give me a second. But like that's
it's ball game, right?
Yeah,
it's not even we shouldn't even be having this conversation if
exactly
that's point. But we know the chances of that happening still even like, I mean, if Biden wins Florida, I mean, just forget it. It's done. It's not even. I don't even think Pennsylvania even comes into play at this rate. Like Florida, like the only thing keeping Trump alive in my book is Florida, and I still think he pulls out Florida.
I think he does too. I think he wins Florida.
So that's the only thing that's keeping Trump alive in this. So I think, I don't know. I don't buy Texas. I don't buy Arizona. I don't buy Iowa. I don't.
Okay.
You can convince me, Arizona. You can convince me. Like, Cindy McCain, you said is campaigning for against Trump. So I can be convinced that maybe Arizona, pulls in Biden's direction. I don't see Texas. I'm not.
By the way, and this is, if I'm giving him, this is based on Real Clear Politics, which is, for those who don't know, it's basically they take like 8 to 10 polls and they do the average. So it's like
they
one
do the
poll,
average, and they also do state and national or whatever.
Right. So it's not one poll. It's a lot of different polls into one. They have Biden up 0.4 in Georgia right now. If I give Biden everything that he's up in Real Clear Politics, he wins 349 to 189. He absolutely blows him out the water. Now, you and I don't think it's going to happen, but you have to realize that so many things have to go right for Trump to make up a 349 to 189 difference in the polls. A lot of shit has to go right for him.
Absolutely. Right. Look, if you told me right now, Manny, bet everything that you have in your savings account on who's going to win, I'm going to pick Biden. Just from the numbers alone, I'm going to pick Biden. So
the Trump aspect of it is like your pessimistic side of like,
right.
Okay.
The math tells me Biden, right? My brain, my heart, what I know about politics, what I know about demographics in these certain states. Like, I lived in Florida. Like,
right.
I don't know, the Panhandle. A lot of people that I know that still lives in Florida, they tell me,
Panhandle's Alabama.
It's going to be close.
Yeah.
And the thing that scares me in states like Florida, states like Arizona, Latinos are actually showing up for Trump, bro.
They are. That's true.
Fucking thing that like
Florida got little Cuba down there in Miami that's showing up for him.
Here's the thing that I always tell people, right?
Yeah.
What you just said is accurate. We're animated, we're motivated, we're coming out to poll. Turnout is big. But turnout's big on the other side too.
Yeah.
And that's the thing you have to remember too. Trump's base, whatever you may say about them, they're fucking motivated. They're nuts. And I know that there's more of us than there are of them. But I'm just saying, like, again, it's the pessimistic in me. And I'm normally not.
Okay, I'm going to try to talk you down. Now, do you think that base from 2016 grew, or do you think it shrunk?
No, I think the base is, Trump's base has always been small. People, like, the reason Trump won was and it wasn't Russia, and it wasn't like
it wasn't that. Yeah.
The reason Trump won was a lot of people didn't vote. A lot, like almost 60 million people did not vote.
Yes,
like that's just a fact.
Yes,
look it up. And a lot of people that voted for Obama in 2008, 2012, millions of people flipped.
Yes.
That actually dispels the notion that like all of Trump's voters are racist, right? Like there's literally, you can't tell me you're going to vote for Barack Hussein Obama and then turn around and vote for, Donald Trump. Like it just doesn't even make sense from a narrative perspective. Correct. So a lot of people flipped from Obama to Trump. I think a lot of people hated Hillary. So they just was, in a lot of ways, how people hate Trump, it was an anti-Hillary vote.
It's a perfect storm. It was really the perfect storm.
So I think there was a combination of a lot of different things that led to Trump winning. Do I think that some of those things are still in place? I do think some of those things are still in place.
Like
I don't think there's the hate to Biden that there is to Hillary. So I think that's not one of those things that is in place. I also think while his base has not expanded, I don't think there's as many independents as there was last time, or people that are kind of in the middle. So I think that those things are different. I still think his base is still passionate. I still think the people, even the folks that like, oh, I don't really like Trump, but I want to shake up the system type of thing. I still think there's still a lot of those folks still around. Whether you don't like them or you don't agree with how their logic or perspective, I still think there's still a lot of those folks around. Like, bro, look at the polls. Like, I know we're saying that he's leading mostly in all of these states, but the fact that Trump, being the world's biggest fuck up, is still close in a place like Georgia, is still close in a place like Wisconsin, that he's still close. Like for me to feel confident that this motherfucker's not going to win, I need to see 10, 12, 13-point leads across the board. And I know that's
I get what you're saying, but
I know that's not realistic.
It's not realistic. And just to push back on that a little bit, a 6-point lead in polling is big. It's significant. It is. And I don't know if people know that, people who are listening who may not be as political as us. If I say Biden's up 6 in a poll, that is big. That's is big. Like, okay, he's winning. He's winning. It gets dicey when it's like 1 to 3, 4-ish.
I say 4 is the cut. 4 point. If anything 4 below,
yeah. So, and that's the thing. And like, I know I'm like beating a dead horse here, but like, if you look at the poll numbers, like especially in the Michigans and the Wisconsins, he's way past that threshold.
Right.
And in Pennsylvania, he's past that threshold too. Yeah. So, I mean, a lot has to go wrong for Biden. I mean, just a lot of the trends are going towards Biden. Like I said, I think there's a lot more voter turnout. I think a lot of people who've become eligible in the past 4 years are going to turn out, and they are more likely to vote Democratic. So I don't know. I mean, listen,
to kind of wrap it up, bro. Like, again, you asked me to bet with all of my money. I'm going to tell you, yep, Joe Biden all the way, right? Like, it's like not looking at the spread, just going with looking at the spread, taking everything into common sense, right? Biden wins, relatively comfortable.
Yes.
And that's just, you asked me to vote with my gut and my instinct. I think, I don't know, man. I just fear like this motherfucker is going to find a way to pull this shit out, man. And that's what Trump has done to me. The fact that like, I still somehow think, and that's how little faith I have in this country, by the way. That's
the thing. Like, I have a lot of people who don't pay attention to politics. Like a lot of my friends don't do it. And they'll ask me, well, what's going to happen? I'm like, honestly, I think Biden's going to win, but I just don't trust suburbia. That's exactly what I don't trust suburbia.
We can sit here and say, yo, the map looks like this and the map looks like that and da-da-da. Like,
don't trust suburbia.
Don't fucking trust America to make the right decision.
I really don't. I have no faith. I mean, I born in the Bronx, lived the first half of my childhood in the Bronx, came to Rockland County, and there was a stark difference between people in these two places. And I do not trust people in the second place at all to make this decision.
And that goes on the theory. And then that also takes into account the theory of the Trump voter being severely underrepresented. So like, we just don't know, right? We just don't know. Again, is it going to be enough to make up an 8-point difference or a 6-point difference? Who knows? No, I don't think so. But we don't know.
We'll see. I think he's turned off. And just quick points. Like, also, I think demographics are changing. I think the only people who really support Trump in a majority now are older white men, or just white men in general. I think he's lost white women. I think he's lost a little bit. Like, he's lost Catholics, not necessarily evangelicals, but he's lost gain on Catholics. So like, I've seen polling on that. So yeah. I mean, it's really just like, white men, dude. And it's another discussion we can have another day.
Yeah. I'm not sure I agree with you that it's just white men. I'm not sure, but we'll save that for another day. Okay. You can make the argument that he's gained on Latinos. Sad, with both of us being Latino, like, it just fucking kills me to say that. But yeah, there's a lot of
I know. Shout out to my Christian grandmother who lives in Florida, who voted for Trump in 2016 but changed her vote to Biden in 2020.
Shout out to my sister, bro. She voted for Trump in 2000, and now she's like Biden all the way, like pom poms and everything type shit. Hey, I get it. Great.
I get it. Yeah. But my last thought, it just shows you, and I think this comes like full circle to the beginning of our conversation with our beef with the Democratic Party. If the Democratic Party wasn't such a failure, this would never even be an issue. Like, this wouldn't even like.
Yeah. It wouldn't be ball game, right? Like, it'd just be whatever.
Yeah.
It just no. And one last thing, can we stop with this like Biden is a socialist thing? Like, I wish it was.
Oh my God! No, I can't.
Fucking annoying.
What? Oh,
these commercials, God. Right? Like, I watch these commercials, and it's so infuriating. Like, like he supports the communist agenda of Vietnam. I'm like, what? Man,
I saw a commercial linking Nancy Pelosi to socialism, and I almost lost my fucking mind.
Like, you know what I think happened? And I'm not the only one that's saying this. Like, a lot of people are saying this. Like, I really believe that they felt like Bernie was going to win. So they just like, oh shit, Biden won. God damn it. We don't have any material for this motherfucker. Let's just copy and paste. Let's just look.
Just use the same template. But it just shows you that it's their side just has nothing. They have no real. Here's this word that's going to scare you because you don't understand it. And their new favorite word, by the way, now is Marxism. That's their new.
Yeah, they just learned that one. They just learned.
They just learned
Marxism.
Oh, Black Lives Matter. They're Marxist socialists,
Leninist, and Marxist. Like, oh, okay, got it.
You have no. What is Marxism? Please define Marxism for me. Please define socialism and tell me what you think about
as they're cashing their unemployment check. What's socialism? Right? Fucking retard. Shouldn't say that. Moron is more apt. description. No, man. Yeah, I just have no faith in these people. But the Republicans in this like socialist talking point, like I wish these people were socialists. Like I'm dying as a.
That's what I tell all my Republican friends who called Obama a socialist. I'm like, I wish Obama was socialist. They're all hell of a guy right now.
I wish. Yeah, no, it's. Yeah, so it's just funny that like, I see these commercials. I still see these commercials. I mean, Nancy Pelosi, really? Nancy's a socialist.
They had Nancy right next to AOC, which is like the most like you couldn't like divide. You put Joe Manchin. That's probably the first politician I could think of that's like as far on the other side of the spectrum as AOC. But like it's like really.
It's laughable, bro.
Yeah.
And you know the sad part is like they could actually hit Biden on a lot of like serious shit that could land, right? Like NAFTA, like Iraq, like the crime.
Iraq's a big one. Iraq's a huge one that Trump campaigned on in 2016 that he could have brought back
and landed points on Hillary on.
Yes.
Like the fact that Trump was to the left on Hillary.
That even to the point where like if they hit him on Iraq, you and I would watch the commercial and go, ooh. He's right though.
What did I text you the night of the second debate, right? I was like, because you didn't watch it. And I said the second half, Trump hit Biden on a lot of stuff, mainly the Hunter Biden stuff, which I think people don't really care about.
Right.
Because the source is like, I'm not focusing on Hunter Biden when Trump's kids are just as fucked up. But I think he really hit him on the criminal justice stuff. And I think he really hit him on the, criminal justice, and he hit him on the trade war stuff. It's like, you vote, like you basically advocated for NAFTA. So so yeah, that's the sad part. It's like you can hit Biden on so much that you're choosing the social.
They just don't. Yeah.
All right, man. Let's close it out. We have a new segment on the show called "World's Worst Human." Every week, we scour the news line all over pop culture, politics, sports, wherever, and pick a bad person of the week, a person that we think is the world's worst human. Now this is just mostly tongue in cheek, but in a situation where we just don't agree in their take. They could have had a hot take about something. They could have did something stupid. They could have, done the absolute worst thing in the world. They could have done the most minute thing in the world. So we just pick a person that really stuck out to us throughout the week, and we vote him as our world's worst human. So, Josh, I'm going to start with you. Who is your world's worst human for this week?
My world's worst human is Justin Turner of the Los Angeles Dodgers, catching COVID in the middle of the game, coming back and making it a super spreader. Listen, I understand. I get it, Justin. You just won the World Series. It's a dream come true. But celebrate in the stands, like by yourself, like wave, like the wacky inflatable arms man guy or something like that. Like, do not spread this disease to everyone on the field. Or if you're going to be on the field, double up on the mask. Do something.
Well, to be fair, and I somewhat agree with you, but to be fair, you can make the point that the Dodgers fucked around. I think the Dodgers fucked around with the testing system, because the fact that 1,000%. Once he already had an inconclusive exam, you could make the case that there was a strand of the virus already in him. So he already infected everybody in the organization at some point or another. So you can make the case that everyone's infected. I might as well. Right?
No.
I'm not saying I agree with that or that's a logic, but I'm just saying.
No, I don't agree with that.
Devil's advocate.
Well, devil's advocate. I mean, I think once you find out you're positive, you have an obligation to stay far away from people as possible. And if you're around people, wear a damn mask and don't kiss your freaking wife on the lips. I know that she probably does have it because she's your wife and you see her every day, but let's be a little more responsible than that.
I just want to know how the motherfucker tested positive in a damn bubble.
Bubble.
I just want to know.
You got fans showing up to a game. Bubble.
Well, I mean,
just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
All right. I mean,
who do you got, Manny?
Where were they? Where were they? By the way, they were in Texas, the state that's supposedly going to go blue. Yeah. Yeah. I won't hold my breath. My world's worst human is Craig Carton.
Yes, good one. Good one.
Man, and for those of you, obviously, this is a very New York centric story. So we talked about it earlier. New York's sports radio here is a behemoth. WFAN, ESPN New York. So Craig Carton used to host with Boomer Esiason a very successful, popular morning show, Boomer and Carton, for 10 years. And I enjoyed the show. I always enjoyed Craig Carton. I he's a Met fan, so it's nothing against him per se. He's committed security frauds and defrauding folks of like ticket sales or ticketing concert tickets and stuff like that. Basically securities frauds, and was sentenced to 3 years in prison last year. I think he only served like a year or like 10 months or so and got released with good behavior or whatever. And he is getting his old job back. Not just his old job back, right? Like not just like, oh, he's going back to WFAN and getting a weekend time slot or even his own time slot. He is getting, and then if you don't know the dynamics of sports radio, like basically morning radio and like drive time radio is the prime time. Like that is the slot. That is the money-making slot. That is the powerhouse slot. This man, Joe Beningo, another successful popular host, retired this week, and it was announced that Craig Carton will be taking over that man's slot. He hosts a show with Joe Beningo used to host a show with Evan Roberts. Now Craig Carton is taking that role. So Craig Carton, fresh out of jail, gets his old job back and gets rehired and gets a drive time slot 2 to 6 o'clock or 2 to 7 at his own place of employment. I mean, look, I'm all for second opportunities. I'm all for you paid your debt to society. You deserve a second chance. I'm all for that. That being said, something about this just kind of rubs me the wrong way. Just
me too.
The optics of it just doesn't look well.
1,000%.
From the optics, from the fact that we talk about diversity and having more people of color, this was the perfect opportunity to bring in somebody young, up and coming. It's amazing how
someone who paid their dues,
right. And I'm not trying to be bitter. Like I'm not trying to sit there and say like, yeah, why didn't you hire me? Or why didn't you hire Josh? Or why didn't you hire? Right. But in a way, yeah, I am, because it's like, bro, there's a lot of talented people out here that are putting in work, that are doing great work out here. And you bring back this fucking guy. And I know he's a popular guy. He's a name. He's put in his own work in his own right. But it's like, it just doesn't look bad. Like, this is a dude that just committed security frauds that was sentenced. Wasn't like, oh, he was accused and got off. No, he was sentenced. And you just hire him back up and then give him a promotion, basically. Yeah. And if you listen to his like 1 hour preview the other day, he did show some contrition, but it wasn't enough where you feel like, oh, this is a changed man. Like, no, he's still the same Craig Carton. He feels like he was a victim.
How can he change? He got his job right back. There was
he got a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, you went to jail, but I mean, you probably knew when you got out that you were getting this job because negotiations had been going on.
He knew he was getting his job back. Yeah, it just rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, really? This is what we're doing?
Me too.
Like, if I was Craig Carton and I did the shit that he did, I probably wouldn't get my job back. Let's just be real.
You used to be in jail, dude. What are you talking about?
Exactly. Well, yeah. The American justice system actually doing right by me? Of course not. But yeah, it's like, it just rubs me the wrong way, yo. Like, it just, I don't know. It's just from optics, it just looked bad. And I'm glad the New York media, some people are giving it a pass, but some people are actually writing about it and saying, yo, this is like really WFAN. Like, are y'all that desperate? Is Michael K kicking y'all ass that much that you resort to hiring Craig Carton back? And again, this is nothing against the man's talent. Craig Carton is a very talented dude. Yeah, it just doesn't look right. Like, can you, like, it's like, again, you work at the Uninterrupted, like a freaking guy that commits a federal crime. Oh yeah, come on back. Do a podcast. Matter of fact, you want to do a podcast with LeBron? Here you go. Like, what?
That's literally what it is. That's a great analogy because that's
like,
literally what it is. Yeah, dude, you know the podcast that we get the most downloads in? Like, you're going to host that now. Like, yeah,
exactly.
That's literally what it is, yeah.
Like, okay, instead of promoting this up and coming guy or another.
Yeah, you have Josh and 3 other producers who are also hosts that you could bring up. No. That's literally what it is.
But then you have people like Bill Simmons who's like, oh well, we would hire people of color if we could just find them. We don't know. Where do these people hang out? Where do they congregate?
You know, it's funny you say that because Bill Simmons ended up hiring my former boss.
Oh, really?
At the Ringer now, yeah. A former executive producer at Uninterrupted is now the executive producer at the Ringer, and he's from Nigeria. Shout out to TD.
Well, shout out to him, man. And hey, you know what?
Hopefully, you know what? He only found him because he got called out.
And that's why I love it. And that's why shows like this are important. We need to call this shit out because this idea that like we don't exist, we don't do this stuff. You ever notice when executives always have a response to why they don't hire people of color? Where do you find these people? I don't know. I looked in Compton and nobody was talking sports radio. So I don't know because we're all in Compton or we're all in Chicago or we're all in New York, right? We're nowhere else in the country. We don't ever apply. So yeah. So my world's worst human for this week is Craig Carton. Good luck on your new drive time. That's some white privilege for your ass right there, bro. Like that's
upsetting. That there's no other way to describe that except privilege in my mind. I'm trying to find a devil's advocate argument for that, and I'm not even going to do it.
Yeah, and you can't even. I mean, the only thing I could think of is like, well, he did pay his due to society, I guess, but still, and if you want to hire him, fine, hire him. You got to give him a freaking prime time drive time slot. Like, really? You can't hire this motherfucker on the weekends?
I don't know. I like Evan too. That's going
to be an interesting combination from a listenership standpoint. But
yeah,
we'll see. But yeah, man, that is it. We got through our first episode together. Yeah,
get it.
I wish I had applause track, but yeah, man, we got through it. First show, first of many. I think it went well. Before we get out of here, please make sure to check out the show. We are on Twitter at AGS Pod, Instagram AGS Podcast, Facebook Any Given Sunday. If you've been listening to the show for more than an episode, you know where to find us. So check us out. Plus, we're on every platform: iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. Anywhere you can find podcasts on the internet, we are there. Of course, you can follow Josh on his platforms. You can follow The Dime, NBA Podcast. You can follow me. I am also working on another podcast project that I won't reveal at this moment, but I got some news coming up in a couple weeks about some things I'm working on. So, yeah, man, stay tuned. And, yeah, man, we're back. Ready to roll. You could tell from my energy today, I've been saving up a lot of steam because I haven't podcasted in like 3 months. I've been doing other shows, but I haven't had this microphone in my hand for too long for the last couple of weeks. So I got some energy. So yeah, we're ready to rock and roll, man. So we missed you guys. At least I missed you guys. And again, always thank you for listening and supporting the show. I know Josh shares the same sentiments. You know, I don't care how dope your podcast is. People aren't listening, aren't supporting. It doesn't matter. So thank you for every single person that listens and supports the show. And like, I cannot, it's actually humbling. So many people, yo, what's going on with the podcast? Like, yo, what's up with the podcast? Hey, you're still podcasting? Like, what's up? Yes, we're still podcasting. We're here, bigger, better than ever. So thank you for the support and keep listening, man. Josh, election day coming up on Tuesday.
Whew.
Should be fun. Yeah, man, we'll, hopefully we don't wake up on Wednesday morning and it's an anarchy. So
I'm sure. Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah. And all jokes aside, man, please
stay safe. Be responsible.
Please be safe.
If the election doesn't come out the way you want it to come out, don't
protest peacefully, but just don't be stupid. So yeah, man, be safe. And of course, COVID is still out there. Please wear a mask, protect yourself, do all the, I don't have to tell you guys are smart to listen to the show. So yeah, man. But yeah, we're going to get up out of here. It's getting late. Josh, thank you, my friend. We'll be back next week. Of course, we'll be back next week with another episode of the podcast. Josh Rodriguez. I'm Manny Brown. We're out of here. Peace.